send you a brand new link and then we'll get this bitch. Actually, I lied. And restart. Welcome into Jets Nation Radio. I'm Goose, joined today by the co-creator of Oilers Nation, Wanye Gretz. Before I get to him, we are going to shout out my good friends at Betway. If you are my one Ontario listener, check out Betway. See what kind of odds you can get on the Jets. I mean, plus 50 or plus 5,000 on the Jets to win the cup. You want to get in on that. I mean, the Jets are taking on the LA Kings. There's some good odds on all of that. So check it out. 19 plus in Ontario, Betway. Wanye, how's it going?
You want to change your life? You want to change your life, Ontario listener? Bet it all on the Jets to win the cup.
Oh, it's going to be a guaranteed win after
the lock of the week.
It is 100%. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was telling everyone the Oilers are going to win the cup, but that guy did not know what he's talking about.
No, we wrote that this season off already. We are in the fail for Bedard race. Even though he was drafted last year, we're still going to tank this year to make sure perhaps we can somehow get him. That's our game plan.
Yeah, you can have Connor and Connor Jr.
Yeah, Pepsi and Pepsi Max. We call Connor Bedard Pepsi Max because he's not quite Pepsi, but he's given max effort. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's fun to watch, too, but not nearly as fun as that McDavid guy in Edmonton.
Well, I think he's the poor guy, especially having the same name as McDavid. Like, that's an unfair expectation. But I think he's a truly special player. I don't think he's going to be like Patrick Kane level awesome, even though Patrick Kane's an unbelievable player. I think he's going to be even better than that.
Yeah. Oh, we talk about it all the time here at the radio station I work at because we do stuff with Sportsnet, and they're like, Angus, what do you think of Bedard? I'm like, in 5 years, we're gonna hate this guy so much because he's gonna win like 6 Stanley Cups. It's gonna be unreal.
He's got the empty eyes of a guy who's got laser beams for like shots. You know what I mean? Like when you look at him, you're like, what is this? What am I looking at here? He's never had junk food in his life. Like, okay. Is he in a death cult? What's the matter with him? And then you see him on the ice. You're like, oh, I see. He's got like moves I've never seen people do before.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember, back in 2015, we were talking, well, McDavid's doing stuff we've never seen before either.
McDavid is... I mean, we're very, very lucky here in Edmonton to have Connor. And if there's ever an annoying fan base in Canada that deserved Connor McDavid, it was either you guys or us, because we live and die with this shit. But with Connor, it's so crazy because he's a really good NHL player at like 1.5 times speed. And he just he doesn't look like he's moving that quickly, but he's just flying past people. Whereas Bedard is doing all this crazy toe drags and shit. Like, Connor's a different kind of player, Connor McDavid, than Connor Bedard. And yet they're both going to have very high impact careers, obviously.
Yeah. How excited are you potentially to see those guys play together in the Olympics?
Well, now we've been teasing ourselves with the Olympic dream for bloody 14 Olympics in a row here. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'd love to see Connor McDavid in a Team Canada jersey with a C on it. That would be unbelievable. That's his dream and my dream.
It's the whole city of Edmonton's dream to see that happen.
We were talking about this the other day at our get-together for Oilers Nation, and we were talking about conceptually we could see both 2,000-point players in Edmonton.
Leon and Connor.
No, just Gretzky.
Oh, okay. Connor. I see what you're saying.
Like, Connor's in our minds, Connor's going to break 2,000 career points. Like, we think that this is not that crazy to think if he had a long career. And so there'd be two guys who've done it, and it's both Oilers. Like, what the hell are the odds of that? Astronomical.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
Considering how many first picks we torched, too.
Oh.
Got you good, you fuckers.
Yeah. Fucking poor Nail Yakupov getting screwed over.
He's doing great. We see him on Insta over in the KHL. Who the hell knows where he is? And he's playing for his dad now. His dad is his GM in the KHL.
That's crazy.
All's well that ends well. He makes $3 million a year.
Yeah, he's doing fine. He's back home in Russia.
He's living his best life. He looks happy, way happier than when he was here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I felt bad for that poor guy back in the day when he was hanging out at your your cafe, giving folks some coffee.
Wearing space pants?
Wearing space pants as well.
I remember walking around the corner, seeing a guy wearing very visibly space-themed pants and going, yeah, that guy's funky fresh. And then I double took it. I was like, oh my God, it's Nail Yakupov. And I just ran and hid in our office and didn't leave the rest of the day in case I was going to see him. And then he put a photo on Insta.
Oh, so he gave you guys the free love.
Oh, yeah. Nail's a legend. People of Edmonton love Nail Yakupov, man. Like, he was such a nice guy to Oilers fans. And that's a threshold. Like we've had a lot of people come through Edmonton that were highly touted or good players who just didn't emotionally connect with people, right?
Yeah.
And then we've had other people who've come through who maybe aren't the hugest impact player on the ice, but they're just beloved by Oilers fans. And like Nail Yakupov to be first pick overall, there's still an enormous amount of the fan base that still blames the Oilers for botching his career, and they love Nail Yakupov.
Oh yeah, I'm in that camp too. Like if we could redo things and we didn't have to go through that decade of darkness with Ryan Whitney and we could go.
But
we could
it
talk
all
about
got us
that.
Connor though, right?
Yeah,
and that's the other conclusion we've come to is every failed trade, every free agent that spurned us, it all added up to Connor. So it was worth it, right? But remember the 1 year the Oil like won the 82nd game of the year, and then as a result they like moved past. I can't remember if it was Chicago or somebody, but basically we screwed ourselves out of a high impact player by winning a meaningless game 82.
Yeah.
And we always like mock ourselves for that. But then it adds up to Connor.
But you also got Sam Gagner out of that specific deal. So I don't know.
What do you mean that specific deal? What was I referencing?
So your 82 games, that 82 game win, that was the year that the Oilers ended up drafting Sam Gagner.
Oh, but who could we have drafted one spot higher?
Kane. Or like it wasn't Kane, but like the way that the odds worked out, we could have had either Patrick Kane or Sam Gagner.
It is not fair. Like I'm all for judging everybody within an inch of their lives. I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. But it's so unfair to look at drafts with like 5 years history and look back and be like, what are you, stupid? You didn't realize that guy's better than that guy? Because at the time, very rarely, like unless somebody goes really off board with a pick, it's generally speaking consensus who goes when. And you don't realize who's who in the zoo. So 5 years later, be like, what are you, dumb or something? It's pretty unfair.
Yeah. I mean, shout out that guy that got drafted over Shane Doan back in the day.
Steve Kelly?
Steve Kelly.
He can still surprise you.
He could.
Probably
maybe at the age of 49, he'll be fine.
I was at that draft, very young Wanye, and everybody was chanting, Doan, 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 Doan. And the guy goes up and they're like, the others are pleased to announce Steve Kelly. And everybody was just like, oh.
Yeah.
And it was the quietest, like a draft isn't loud to begin with, let's get real, but it was so quiet. And I remember looking at Steve Kelly walk up on stage and I was like, he's never going to amount to anything. And I was like 10 and I knew it. He got traded. I swear it now. Again, I didn't have my facts, but he was part of a large trade for the Oilers with Tampa down the road. Like he was actually a good cog in a trade that helped the team.
Did he actually? Like, yeah. Did he actually end up playing any NHL games though? I thought
he played for Tampa for a little while.
Really? Okay, I'll have to trust you on that one.
But hey, I mean, I know Steve Kelly. Let's be honest. Hockey Hall of Fame, Steve Kelly. Pick instead of Shane Doan, Steve Kelly. Shane Doan played 38 years for the Coyotes.
Yeah.
Steve Kelly didn't play 38 shifts.
He wishes he had that.
We let Nail Yakupov ripen on the vine, die on the vine, fall on the ground, and rot on the ground. We did not help Nail Yakupov at all.
No, but we all remember the slide out on center ice.
He could have been that guy. Remember he did a lot of cool stuff. This was rookie year. He had a lot of goals.
He did. Yeah. And it's really unfortunate that that was a shortened season too. Like he could have been a Calder contender for sure.
Because never has an Oiler won the Calder, right?
No.
Imagine Nail Yakupov wins it, then stinks afterwards. It's like all those great players and no one won the Calder. No. Then Nail Yakupov won it. Correct.
Yeah, who cares about that Gretzky guy? He didn't win Calder.
Gretzky didn't win Calder, but yet they wouldn't count any of his WHA point totals against his NHL totals. So like you're not a rookie, but you're not a player. That's bizarre. And then Connor, because he broke his collarbone, didn't win the Calder.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
A rare miss for Connor McDavid.
Yeah, but don't worry. He's going to win his Stanley Cups. Don't you worry.
I think he will.
Oh, yeah. I think he's going to be a multi-cup winner.
Ooh la la, Goose.
Yeah, I'm all in on that guy.
Oh, man. It truly is a treat.
Yeah.
Like, it is I still cannot get over the fact that Connor McDavid is an Oiler. And he is in his 9th season in the NHL.
Has it actually been 9 years?
That's what they said at the start of the season.
Ugh. I hate that so much because he's a year younger than me.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's all right. Wait till
Yeah.
they start like my boy was Jordan Eberle, and he was like fresh faced and young, and I was like, "We're doing it, Jordan, you and me." Now he's like old and has 2 kids and shit.
Woo. Well, let's talk a little Jets Nation here. I want to know the OG story behind how Jets Nation kind of formed.
Well, we were so excited that like we were making a network, right? So we had Oilers Nation, we had Flames Nation, we had Canucks Army, we had NHLnumbers.com, this old stat site we used to run. And I love Winnipeg. Like my sister lives in Winnipeg. I was so mad for you guys when the Jets left. Like, yes, it was like I thought the Oilers were going to leave too at that time because all the small market teams were leaving, right? And I just felt like Winnipeg got absolutely fucked when the Jets left. And my brother-in-law, my sister live out there, and they go to Moose games and like they did their best. And you guys got your new arena. And at the time, it was like purposefully too small to be in the NHL. And it's like, let's just enjoy the AHL. We don't need to have them big dreams. And when you guys got the team back, we were so pumped. We had Jets Nation up and running before the team was even awarded.
Whoa.
Well, we know how fun Oilers Nation is.
Yeah.
Right? We love yelling at each other and yelling at other teams and shit. And I don't know. I was just so happy that the Jets were back that we're like, we have to make sure that when they ice their first game, we have a website going.
And I mean, it's still pseudo going. It's I feel like it's Guam for the rest of the Nation Network. It's like, yeah, you exist, but you know, you just stay over there on your little island, and you will occasionally kick you a couple bucks.
Well, I think that it's definitely proven challenging to make Jets Nation into a big website, but to the Nation Network as a whole, we get a lot of Jets fans.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right. When you include hockeyfights.com, when you include dailyfaceoff.com, I still feel like we're interacting with Jets fans on like a bigger level, but we have yet to turn the corner on making Jets Nation into a busy site. It's a difficult one, right? It's a tricky one.
It is. Yeah. Winnipeg's a very fickle city. It's been interesting to move here and live here. Just to get myself up there.
I love Winnipeg though. It's so fucking awesome. Like, when the Oilers, so in 2006, blogging exploded because this website, blogger.com, made blog pages available for free to people, like in mass. So prior to that, if you wanted to start up a website, you had to like spend good money to get a coder to make you a website, right? And when blogging got really popular, when Blogger came out, that's right when the Oilers went on a cup run. So you had like this intersection of a lot of people, this is pre-social media. We're like, let's start blogging. What's there things to blog about? How about the amazing local hockey team? So in Edmonton, it just like made a blogosphere out of nothing overnight. And when we first started Oilers Nation, there was 21 other Oilers blogs operating, right?
Yeah.
And in Winnipeg, you guys didn't have a team in 2006 during like the boom of blogging, right? And so you just haven't had a whole bunch of people kind of rush into this space. But there's more and more people making independent sports content now than ever, which is awesome.
Oh, it's huge. This has been kind of a series of me just talking to random independent bloggers and just like trying to connect everyone to the Nation that we're the cool
That's cool.
People. Yeah.
That's cool. I think that like you're doing the right thing getting in. We were talking before the show started, like taking the graveyard death shift at the radio station when you're young and getting your foot in the door, right? Like having one foot on the internet and one foot in terrestrial radio and then making your own content on social media. I think in the long run, you can call your own shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you have a good social media audience, they're engaged and you're doing funny stuff and they like you and you change stations, you're fine. If you change teams you write about, you're fine. Whereas in the olden days, it's like, oh, he no longer works for the Winnipeg Press. We'll never see him again. Now you call your own shots, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look like a guy like Jason Greger in Edmonton, and it's just like that guy owns his own show, does everything right. And it's like, if I could base anything off of anyone, it's going to be Greger. And hopefully we get to that point in the next 5 to 10 years.
He's a mastermind, Greger. He got into it late. He didn't go into radio until he was 27.
Really? 27?
Yeah.
I thought I was a late bloomer at 25.
No, he was in the oil patch. He had a whole first career minting coin on the patch like many Albertans. And then he told me that he was in a camp. He had a guy sleeping in his dorm room who snored. So he went and slept in the bathtub. And he's like, what am I doing with my life? And he's like, I tossed and turned in that bathtub all night. And I was like, I'm going to be on sports radio. And he like got up in the morning and ran out and quit and went on his way.
Damn, I respect it.
I do too.
Yeah. Like I'm a former pipeliner, and this is my own podcast. I don't care about swearing. I was called a stupid cunt every day for 6 months straight. And eventually just like I broke. I'm like, I'm going to radio school. I don't care anymore.
I think that before, radio and TV was controlled by gatekeepers. And unless you were a musician or a stand-up comedian, which kind of call their own shots a little bit more, I think it's really hard to make content that anyone can listen to.
Yeah.
Now we live in a golden age.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Now you publish onto these multi-billion-dollar company platforms and just magically take it to glass cubes in everyone's pockets. Like, what the fuck? It's the future. Right?
Yeah.
If you take this podcast and just keep doing it over and over and over and over and keep having guests and do the work, it will eventually get as big as you want it to. That's the story of how the Nation Network got as big as it did, is we just didn't stop at Oilers Nation. We kept launching more and more and more sites.
Yeah. And I mean, God bless you guys for getting Jets Nation off the ground, because like it's been my favorite little pet project that I've been kind of rolling with.
It's good, man. And it's what you want it to be, right? If you're like, this is stupid, I only had one reader, then it is. If you're like, this is awesome, I had one reader, then it is, right? Like, we laugh now because we kept investing in Leafs Nation, Canucks Army, and Flames Nation for like a decade, right? And we just break even. If we got a new advertiser, we'd hire another person, right? Like, it was very slow. Whereas Oilers Nation, we felt like it was a hot meteor all the way to the moon because we were like living it every day. Now Canucks Army some months is bigger than Oilers Nation.
No way.
Yeah, and it took like 14 years to get there. Right?
That's crazy.
So if you keep working on your craft, whatever it is, being a podcast or being on the radio or doing all of it, right? I think that like sometimes you'll see people in the media who don't put a big effort in on social media.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, what do I care? I'm on the fucking drive time show at K-Buzz. You can suck it, Earth. Well, those jobs come and go, right? And if you're able to grow your own online audience while you're the drive time at K-Buzz, God forbid they turn the radio station off, like the sports one in Edmonton. Middle of the morning show, they just pull a proverbial plug and the show's off the air. Like, you better hope you've made an investment in your own social media. You better hope you have your own podcast on the side. You better hope that you've done things like Jason Gregor. Like, when we pitched Jason Gregor, we're going to make a real Oilers website that's going to be legit. He wasn't even the drive time host, but he already thought of himself as Seacrest, right? And I was like, this is the guy. This is the guy we need to convince, right? Because he has that star power about him, right? But he has worked so hard for us for so long, writing so many articles when like he was way bigger than that. He didn't need to. And as a result, though, when the station got turned off, we were able to bring the news station back.
Yeah. I mean, how has that been, trying to combine terrestrial radio and you guys?
Easy, because it's all people that we know blog. They all record audio content. You know, we plugged in a bit more of a team around Gregor that's doing clips and making sure that he's been videoed, right?
Yeah.
But like the bureaucratic bullshit you would have to go through to get a TSN show to be like simulcast online, it wasn't worth doing.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, well, we're putting a huge effort now into our YouTube, but all our shows now they all go on our YouTube channels as well. And suddenly you can get, 1,500 views on YouTube of your show. If you'd been doing that on the Gregor show for the last 15 years, you'd have a huge YouTube page.
Yeah. Well, and like I've tried to convince the bosses, like the big bosses from Toronto, it's like, you guys need to start finding a way to have a simulcast going, maybe find some sort of talk radio. They're like, we don't need to do that. I'm like, okay, have fun with the AI robots that take over this industry in 5 years.
I don't think that's going to happen. Do you?
Yes and no. I think it's they've put a ridiculous amount of money into AI and trying to have AI hosts, but they sound awful. There's no charisma to any of them. So I think it's going to be something they push, and that's ultimately going to fail, and they're going to look foolish for it.
I'm currently running, and I'm not lying when I tell you this, I'm currently running 3 so-called AI in air quotes. I'm running 3 AI startups concurrently. And they use machine learning, right? So they learn how to do something, right? And in other times you wouldn't really say AI, you would just say it's code based, right? But AI is like a hot term right now, right?
Yeah.
AI is so far away from being something that poses a threat to humanity that I think it's just the newest thing we're telling ourselves to be scared about.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Like down the road, does robots and AI pose a mortal threat to us? Yes. That's why it was so good Terminator was made early on. So we were all like, uh-oh, computers could pose a threat. It's good that we have that in our heads. But I don't think AI is nearly at a space. And it'll get there quick. But for the moment, I don't think it's going to replace anybody in media or any of that shit. Look, you know the Avengers movies and all those movies, how like prevalent CGI is,
Yeah.
right? Do you ever mistake that for reality when you're watching
never.
it?
Not once.
Now extrapolate that even further to when you're watching something and it's AI and you're like, oh, none of this is real. Like the human mind is going to be able to detect it. And like, I think you'll have a news service maybe that's AI. You'll have automated voices that are AI. The intro to my new podcast, Wanye's World, it's AI.
Yeah.
It's just a voice. But like that podcast can't do an episode of Wanye's World, that AI. Like I'm not worried about it like doing the whole show because humans are still the creative force behind it, everything.
Yeah, the issue with radio though is like everything is just so recycled. Like I did a bit on Saturday. I heard 6 times from the other people that I work with. And I'm like, well, I don't really care. I still find Bigfoot interesting enough to BS about it. So I don't know.
That's why it's good you're doing a podcast, right? That's why
Yeah.
it's good you're on multiple platforms, right? It's good that you're putting out more content than just one type.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I like doing all 3 types of media that I'm up to these days. And it's weird when people like, I've had a guy like, oh yeah, you're the voice on 92.1 City at 3 a.m. on Saturday. I'm like, who the hell's listening to me? Don't you know me for Jets Nation? No, I don't care about that. I just want to listen to the rock radio station. Like, right on, brother. But this is weird.
If you're able to like consistently put out content in this day and age, you will find an audience for it.
Oh yeah. Like last winter, I just moved to Winnipeg last winter, and it was I had somebody corner me outside the grocery store and just talk to me about the Jets for like 15 minutes. It was like -20 out. So I was like, dude, I need to go inside. And then I ended up catching a cold, but it was kind of cool. Yeah. Blame them for like a wicked ass winter cold.
One thing that I didn't realize as a youth was that like I would look for jobs, right? And be like, how come there isn't a job being like a Playboy Mansion greeter for $400 million a week? Or how come like I want to work in sports? I may as well have wished to be an astronaut. Like you can't work in sports. There's like 8 jobs and there's like 2 million people that think they want to do this. Everybody who likes watching sports idly wishes they could work in sports, right? And it's just not going to happen, right? What I didn't realize then was that volunteerism is the bridge to doing whatever you want, right?
Yes.
So if you're like, oh, what do you want to do? I want to write about the Oilers. Okay, then start your own Oilers website. No one can prevent you from doing that.
No, not
you could go to the worst, like the U of A. I went to the U of A right here in Edmonton, and I wrote one article for the student newspaper. One. Then they're like, we don't need you anymore. And I was like, this is a volunteer job. And they're like, we know it is. And I was never allowed back. Right. And at the time I was crushed. Right. I was like, you motherfuckers. Because there's not that many places to write about sports around town. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's like a gatekeeper preventing me from doing my dream. Right. So the answer is do something on a volunteer basis. Right. When I talked to Frank Saravalli, right, the head of the Professional Hockey Writers Association, now the lead correspondent of Daily Faceoff. Think how crazy that is that guy works with us, right?
Yeah.
How did he get his start? He got his start because a newspaper in Pennsylvania that was only available in minor hockey rinks was advertising, do you want to write about sports for free? And a young Frank Saravalli was like, I take up the call. And he joined the newspaper, treated it extremely seriously. And it led to that little newspaper, which had one press pass for the Philadelphia Flyers somehow. And shout out to the Flyers for giving press passes out to kind of smaller media outlets so you can grow the jobs in the industry, right? But they got Frank Saravalli in the building, and Frank Saravalli strutted in the first day wearing 8 ties and 3 suits and was like, what to do, bitches? And took it so seriously and did such a good job that within a couple of seasons, all the media knew him.
Yeah.
And then he's telling me that he went to go to journalism school because he's like, I'm going to be a journalist for real. And he went, I think he got into NYU or something. He said somebody good. And the Philadelphia Inquirer beat reporter quit on a dime or died or something. And they called him and they're like, do you want to come be the Flyers reporter and you can travel with the team? And he's like, I'm going to journalism school. And they're like, with what end game in mind? And he's like, being the Flyers reporter. And they're like, why don't you just come be the Flyers reporter?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Shit happens quick, but you have to volunteer your way into the industry.
Yeah,
and like what you're doing, the 3 to 8 super mega graveyard monster max shift that 9 out of 10 people who'd be a little bitch wouldn't do, that's your foothold in the industry.
Yeah, well, and like the job that my full-time job here at Rogers is just promotions coordinator. And when I got the original email, I was like, there is no way that they actually want me for that job. And apparently like 3 other people passed on it because they're like, I don't want to do promotions. That's lame. Well, those
first
3
mistake.
People, those 3 people are still not working in the industry. And I get a pretty sweet job where I go to concerts for free all the time. So suck it to those guys.
First mistake is not taking an opportunity like that for what it is. And it's a foot in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been a sick job. Like there is nothing else that I mean, Jets Nation is what I want to do. But if I had to quit that immediately, there's no other job.
But maybe in this day and age that we live in, you should be thinking about a career doing both.
I guess there is that possibility.
Well, think of Gregor, right? Gregor's who you want to prototype, right? Yeah. Gregor doesn't exclusively work for us, nor does he exclusively do his radio show.
No.
Right? He does both.
Yeah. Yes, and he does both very, very well.
Yeah, and they both things help each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what, like, I bless the guys here that I work with who have been very, very supportive of this podcast.
That's awesome.
That are
that's
just
great.
Like, yeah, just wear a silly little logo when you're doing podcasts at the station, and we won't even think about the time that you're wasting. So it's okay.
That's sick.
Yeah.
When we were doing our real life podcast, and we're at like episode 550 or some crazy shit. And for a while, they were letting us record them at the radio station because we didn't understand how to work our audio equipment properly, and it kept fucking up and ruining our podcast. And the station manager was like, you can use our crappy 8th rated station that we never use because the room smells funny. And me and Bag Milk would go in there and knock them out. We thought we were working for like CNN. We were so excited. There's something cool about a radio station. There's something cool about being in the media that I just like. It's magical, right? Like now we're doing 1440 and I go on Friday afternoons on the Gregor show here in Edmonton, right? And I'm a co-host on the radio for 2 hours. My parents, who are not impressed by anything I've done in my life, are like happily telling their friends now I'm on the radio 2 hours a week. Like there's just something really cool about it as a job.
It is. Yeah, it's bizarre. Like I drive the station vehicle around all the time. I feel like an absolute baller driving that F-150 around. But like people will be like, oh, you work for the radio station? Like, yeah, I do. They're like, you're on air. This like, I've got my crappy time slot, but they think that I am the cat's pajamas.
Yeah. Because they're like normal folks, bless their hearts, who don't like so many people do jobs that you never have anybody really appreciate. You never have really anybody enjoy. They're like anonymous roles in a larger economy, right?
Yeah.
But radio hosts are like celebrities. They're superstars, right? And there's a certain type of person that becomes a mega fan of stuff, right? And those are people I love because I'm like an Oilers fan to a point that it's like probably criminally irresponsible, right? When you find people who are like excited about the rock station or excited about a hockey blog or excited about the local basketball team or whatever it is, people who get really into stuff are generally happier people.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like since like just diving into this podcast alone, it just the happiness has spiked again.
And that's good, right? Like that's something that is worth doing. Ideally, you want to do stuff that you could do for free that you could make a living at as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like I had an ex-girlfriend who was like, well, this is just a hobby for you. I'm like, yeah, it's a hobby that's going to turn into a sick job, but you have to, go through the patience of it all. And she didn't get it. And now
especially in this day and age, right? Yeah. Where like you can truly do kind of whatever you want as long as you're willing to do it for free for a while. But that's paying your dues, right?
Yeah, and you have to pay your dues.
You have to pay your dues. And we're the Oilers website of note, despite never having been invited to one single media meeting. In fact, the team hates us and the media hates us, and yet we're publicly traded. So fuck you people.
Really?
Right?
Like the media, even though you guys have guys like Gregor and Lowtide occasionally writing for you and Brownlee.
Yeah, they don't like us at a corporate level. They don't like us on an individual level. And some of us like them on an individual level and tolerate others on a corporate level.
Interesting.
But we don't, the media is a closed circuit and we're not a part of it, nor do we want to be, because we think we're doing it nicer and funner.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's why I go to Oilers Nation, and rather than spending the $3 a month on The Athletic or even going to the Sportsnet, because it's just like, here's your drone stats. Like, no, I want to know what Wanye thinks about the Oilers, or I want to know what whoever thinks about what.
I think that there's I read everything, right? Yeah. I read The Athletic. I have a subscription to it for years. I read Sportsnet. I read TSN. I'll sometimes read the Journal. I mean, it's behind a paywall. I just want to read everything there is to read about the Oilers. That's it. So for me, there's days where Oilers Nation publishes 20 articles. I'm like, oh, this is the best. If we hadn't made this our company and it just existed, I would be the #1 reader.
That's baller. I love the dedication.
It doesn't feel like work. It's not, it sounds cliche, but if you actually like what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work doing it because you enjoy it.
Yeah, do what you love. You never have to work again a day in your life.
But it's hard, right? Because I know people being like, well, that's fucking fantastic, but I have to pay my rent in 8 days. How the fuck am I supposed to eat cotton candy for a living?
Yeah.
And my counter argument to you would be, eat cotton candy for a living on YouTube for free for 8 years. And in your 9th year, the first $500 will fall out. And in your 14th year, you'll make a living doing it. Because people make money doing the weirdest shit now.
So weird. Yeah,
so weird.
It's looking back at it, when I first got into radio, I was in this small town and the owner didn't pay anything. The PD was a complete monster and just made me feel awful about myself. And I should have blogged all of this and just been like, what is it actually like to be in radio? And I think it would have been just very depressing for everyone. They would have been like, maybe we should worry about this guy a little bit. But
if you were to do that and you were to document it and you were ultimately positive about life and pointing your ship towards a good outcome, right? I think that you would bring people on the journey with you, people who don't have the courage to go to a small town and start their radio. Radio is a dream, not a career.
Yeah.
Right. And all the kids that go to Nate in Edmonton, they go into radio and TV, a fairly high number of them actually go and work for stations. Right. Mm-hmm. But the washout occurs, all the people that dreamt of going into radio and TV at Nate, but didn't.
Yeah.
Right. So you're already 3 or 4 or 5 things into setting yourself up for good fun because you're pointing your ship in a good direction and documenting that. If you had documented being in a small town, it would be on the way to something bigger and better.
Yeah. But I mean, hindsight's 2020. It was the middle of the
You can do it now. You are doing it now.
Right? I am doing it now. Yeah. It's restarting the old podcast that I had you on, the Slice of Beef back in the day. And it's just that'll come out within the next couple of weeks, but I'm just so damn excited about that. Cause it's that was a legitimate passion. So
I think that the pandemic was a very strange time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people had their light go out as a result of it. Right. Yeah. And I think the trick on the other side of this bitch is you got to start doing things again.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? Getting your 2 pods up and running. I have a new podcast that I'm doing as well. Right now I'm on the radio for 2 hours a week. I'm doing things that I find enjoyable and it gets me out of the house. I work from my house. Right. So I got to get things going on the outside again. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you're enjoying it a whole lot more. And even just, do you mind if we bring up your kid?
Of course. Okay. Wanye Jr., the big boss, of course.
The big boss. I mean, how much better does living life feel now out of the pandemic with Wanye Jr.?
Yeah, so he was a pandemic baby. My son is 3, so he was born in September of 2020. So it was a crazy time to have a pregnancy going on. I wasn't allowed to go to the hospital for checkups. There's all sorts of restrictions and stuff. When he emerged, the hospital was having a COVID outbreak. right? And so everybody was locked in their rooms. You weren't allowed to go around. So when he was born, mom had to go do mom stuff in a totally different wing of the hospital, and she wasn't allowed into the NIC unit for intensive care for little babies.
Yeah.
So me and Wanye Jr. ended up spending the entire next 24 hours together, chilling with him, like wrapped with like a tensor bandage to my chest to keep him warm.
Oh.
And I was like, we're not allowed to go anywhere. And the nurse is like, no, you have to stay here. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, I don't know, talk to your son. And I was like, oh, do you want to listen to the best of Bad Boy records on my phone? So his like first day was spent listening to like 112 records and shit with me in the hospital. So it was a good time.
Yeah, that's a way to start.
It was awesome, man. Yeah, being a dad's like the awesomest thing ever. So even though it's been kind of a stay-at-home time sort of for society, for me it was perfectly timed because I had a brand new baby.
Yeah, I've had two friends who had kids during that time, right around when Wanye Jr. was born, and they're just like, it was the best having a pandemic and a baby at the same time. Toddlers at that time, totally different story.
For sure. And like, depending on how the parents are wired, if they're like really social creatures, for some people, not being able to show their kid off to a million people was really hard for them. For other parents that like probably didn't want to have to show their kid off to a million people, would have felt obligated by society. Pandemic baby, like, sorry everybody, you know how it is, and they have to do shit. It's the best.
Yeah. Oh, what a great time. Best. It is. Okay, I want to get back into your actually the first question of the Jets have goal songs for everyone. What would your
They do?
Yeah, every single player has their individual goal song.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love it. But what would your goal song be?
Hate Me Now by Puff Daddy and Nas.
Ooh.
Yeah. You do hate me now, imaginary fans of a game. I can't even do crossovers, Goose. I can't even do crossovers. I could never score shit.
Oh, dude, I am the biggest plug out there. I can't skate, can't crossover. I just stand in front of the net and was like, I could be Ryan Smith and score greasy goals.
When I was a little kid, I wanted to play minor hockey. It just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
Right. So instead, I would listen to the Oilers on AM radio.
Well,
and I would read the newspaper cover to cover. And I'd be like, hockey's very interesting. And as a child, I'm going to find a way to participate. And I did.
Yeah, that was me too. Like I wanted to be a goalie so bad growing up, and mom and dad are like, we don't have the money for you to be a regular player, let alone a goaltender. So
why? It's only $12,000 for goalie pads. Is
that
problem?
It's fine. Yeah. And I mean, I'm only going to grow out of them in 6 months. So
yeah, every hour.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I was the same way. Rod Phillips, I grew up on that guy. And then you throw in the Edmonton Journal on top of it. It was fun. That's how I got my hockey fix in.
It's good. Being a fan of really any sport, whether it's soccer or basketball, whatever you're into, being a true fan of something is the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
the best.
It was a very weird transition going from like an all-in Oilers guy. It's like, I only focus on the Oilers, fuck anyone else in the league. I could care less who plays for you, to then all right, what's up with Winnipeg and their hockey squad? Now,
well, I mean, you can have a professional interest in one, and like I feel like people in this day and age have a few teams they cheer for, right?
Absolutely.
I respect a man who's an Oilers fan and nothing else, though.
Yeah.
But the Jets are an easy team to like. At least I think. Like Winnipeg, when I've been to Winnipeg many times, I always feel like I'm home in Winnipeg. Like I feel a kinship with Winnipeg people. When you guys do the whiteout and everybody's so excited, I'm like, God damn, it would be a part of that would be awesome. Like I truly feel Jets fans, regardless of the team's performance, you guys have it figured out.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a smooch from a dude when we got a tying goal at the whiteout party. And like, yeah, I don't even care.
I hope we win in overtime. Wink.
Oh no, they lost in overtime. So
damn it.
Yeah,
a smooch from a dude. That's good times.
Yeah. Oh, whiteout parties. No one does them better. I look at what the Oilers are doing for their outdoor parties. I'm like, yeah, you guys are cool, but you got nothing on
whiteout. The whiteout's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, even with the Flames in their sea of red, I'm like, that is so fucking cool.
Well, every team, I think, is like rolling out their version of what their fan base's thing is, right? And some are inherently funner than others. Like Calgary, and I'm not ashamed to say this, is a shithole, and their team is horrible, and their arena is ready to be condemned, and their tap water is borderline toxic. Like, there isn't anything I like about Calgary at all. But I also recognize it's basically the same city as Edmonton.
Yeah.
Right. And Calgary, we're in sort of that triumvirate as well, right? Like, you're kind of in that triangle of like, life out here revolves around the hockey team. We live and die with it. We generally get served a plate of shit year after year, and we try to make the best of it. That's being a hockey fan is.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like, decade of darkness. How do you get through that? Well, you meme the hell out of your team.
You coined the term "decade of darkness." I remember the day we wrote it. I was like, man, this has been a real decade of darkness. I think one thing that Oilers fans, whether it's annoying on the outside to watch or not annoying, but like, we truly make our own fun.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Really do.
And that just comes as a function of like 4 or 5 of us were lucky enough to be able to make Oilers content full time. And we're like, we're not going to bitch. Like, we're not going to just say every day this sucks, because it's evident it sucks, right?
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is like get really excited about stupid shit and to entertain ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, we used to get so excited about preseason heroes all the time, right? And we would get like, Ty Ratty had 12 points. Get ready, Hockey Hall of Fame. And it was just funny because people who weren't fun would yell at us online and be like, why would you even, who cares about Neil Yakupov? But like, that's why we got through the decade of darkness. We were having a hilarious laugh the entire time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how you beat that long time of, well, you can't just bitch about it.
I remember when I was a little kid and the Oilers had the worst attendance and the economy sucked and all the fans were mad at the owner, Pocklington. And like, the lead story on TSN many nights was how the Oilers were leaving. Yeah. And as a little kid, I wasn't able to do anything about it. I mean, even as a fan, you can't do anything about it. But I just remember being like, holy shit, you can just lose your hockey team. Like, it was such a terrible outcome to even contemplate that is worse than the decade of darkness. Losing the Jets, actually seeing those motherfuckers take to the ice in Arizona, my heart ripped for you people. Then to get your team back and they're called the Jets again? What the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
How can you call them the Jets? Who cares? Hooray! I was so excited, right? It was awesome.
It is, yeah. And like, people party hard for this team.
Yes. And if you're like, how do I like justify being the fan of two things? I would just really embrace being a Jets fan.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I remember the first time we had a party at for Oilers Nation. Right. Jay and I were like, we should have a party. Like, that's a wicked idea because all we like is Oilers and partying. That's it. So we're like, we have an Oilers website. The next thought out of our brain is we should have a party for our Oilers website. And then the third thought that fell out was we should design our own merch. And when we had our party, the first party ever, and this is in like 2008, and we had like 10 t-shirts for sale, all extra small or triple extra large. They didn't know what I was doing. And with the cost of design worked in, we were sure to lose money on every single unit. We were so excited.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
if you have Jets parties, you would out of the gate have a better party than our first Oilers Nation party. Ooh, because you're already so much further advanced than we are, right?
Yeah. Well, and I don't even know how I ended up writing for Jets Nation. I think I either had a wild ass dream where I thought you emailed me to write for this team, or
because nobody else wanted to do it. And we were like, let's find people who want to make a go in the media. And I can't remember how I'd seen you online somewhere or other. Yeah. But like, you had the right spirit and the right attitude of like, everything is funny and I want to mock stuff. And like, that's what you need.
It was my
if you can make yourself laugh, you'll never have a dull day.
It was memes about my grandmother's butter tarts.
It was genius.
Yeah.
Because you were pumping a commercial product that's available. That's the key to being a radio star. You have to monetize. Yeah. Do you know the story of Barstool to any degree?
Vaguely-ish, but
when Portner started doing Barstool, it was a flyer that he would hand out outside sporting events in Boston. And one of the things he advertised was like, I think it was pies his mom made. And if anyone ever called the number on the ad, Mrs. Portnoy answered and would like make a pie for the reader and sell it to them.
Yeah.
It's the principle you're applying of like, I'm going to write content and monetize it.
Yeah.
And even if I don't like the first few issues of Barstool, a lot of his advertisers were fake. they hadn't paid him any money. He just put them in the newspaper to make it look like there were people buying. Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My grandma did not pay me a dime for that. And she was kind of shocked that I was going through, but she was like, my grandpa, who's an old conservative from Wainwright, who's now 90. I chuckled at them. I was like, yeah, if I can get the old boy to laugh at these, we're golden.
But I remember looking at that and being like, oh, this guy has like a mind about trying to make money making hockey content.
Yeah.
And that qualifies you, right? There's not a lot of people who do that. I can't remember what percentage of people actually make content versus just read and like consume. But like, it's a pretty one-way street of just, I go on my phone and scroll, right? Whereas like, I don't know, my brain chemical imbalance, I was like, I want to make jokes and say funny things, and all I care about is the Oilers. Ha ha ha. And away we went, right? And I think you have that same spirit of like, I'm going to do whatever it is that I kind of find funny. And I'm glad you started your podcast up again, right? Because like, that's something that you shouldn't let die.
No, and like I've always kicked myself for it, but that angry PD who is like, well, you should just focus on radio because
shut the fuck up. So I can be an angry PD like you asshat. Shut
exactly.
up.
Honestly, I was looking back and like, damn, if he had caught me at 27 rather than 25 and not new in that industry, I just would have told him to fuck off. But
it's hard though, because as you get further down the road, you're actually more likely to listen to people because you need money.
Yeah. And that's where I was at. It's like, I need these dollars. So
I need these Benjamins. But don't ever let anyone do that.
No, not again. I was just like, I've had someone say like, why are you even bothering with this Jets Nation podcast? You only have
it's good
50 subscribers on YouTube. I'm like, get bent, man. I'm gonna have 500 in 2 years. So whatever.
Or this, like, something always leads to something.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're making content about the Jets and you're doing a good job, it will lead to other things similar to that opportunity.
Yeah. I'm not worried about it. I'm having fun.
Oh, but just like the counter argument to people like shitting on you. I don't like people to do that because like people always shit on me. Right. I remember like we have a little funny cafe here in Edmonton called Little Brick. And
which everyone should actually go check out because it is fantastic.
It's a prime example of like, why on earth do you think you know how to do this, Wanye? Like, why do you think you know how to run a cafe in a 1903 house in Edmonton? And the answer is, I thought it was really cool when I went to Austin. I saw a restaurant in a house. I'd never seen that before. And I was like, why aren't there houses with restaurants in them in Edmonton, the greatest city in the world? And then when I returned home, I was like, I can't get this out of my head. I'm putting a restaurant in a house. And I went looking and found a house, and away we went, right?
Yeah.
Well, I took five.
I was going to say, you have that in like a really residential area. Like, have you seen a growth of people moving into that area just with both the restaurant and the cafe?
Yeah. So we were lucky enough to do a second project 3 blocks up the street from Little Brick. And it's where we have Nation HQ now. And it's a 3-story building. And we have a little pub and we have a little bakery that we own and operate. And the second floor is our offices. And the third is 2 little Airbnb suites, like the world's smallest hotel, right? The 3 businesses combined in this one little neighborhood in Edmonton called Riverdale has definitely changed the neighborhood. It was like, it kind of had some old houses, it kind of had some new houses, but it had no amenities. It's tucked next to the river. So it's kind of this weird island that had no services. And like the bus route in the neighborhood was always on the verge of being canceled, right? Because there weren't enough people taking the bus. And now our 3 businesses, we calculate we bring 15,000 people to the neighborhood a year.
Whoa.
And 45 people work for the different businesses down there. And we did a little survey one time. 35 of 45 take the bus.
Really?
Yeah. So for that neighborhood to suddenly have like 35 additional daily riders, it actually adds up to like the bus being a lot noticeably fuller, right? And like not running the risk necessarily of being cut. It could still be cut, the bus route, but it's definitely on an upswing, not a downswing.
Yeah.
And people, when they sell houses nearby, list proximity to Little Brick, Dog Patch, and Bread and Butter Bakery as one of the selling features of their house.
As they should.
That's cool. So like, has there been an impact on like people that would never go to that neighborhood go there? People bring people from out of town to that neighborhood to show them cool places in Edmonton, and they're like prideful to show their auntie from Thunder Bay a cool restaurant that they know, and they know that when they bring their auntie, they'll be like, oh, in a little old house, isn't that beautiful? Right? Because little aunties love that kind of shit.
They
So,
do. And
it's a
like
good
all
time
the
all around.
cool, all the cool souvenirs you can get at Little Brick as well. Like,
Yeah. And then
yeah.
tucked into that is hilarious hockey blogging offices.
Yeah. I mean, what like isn't the Wi-Fi password for Little Brick like Connor McDavid?
Probably. We have
Something
so many
silly
Wi-Fi problems down there that there's always different Wi-Fis that like don't work properly, and we're always just telling people to log on to like the wrong one. It's pretty funny.
I love it.
It's a shit show. It's a shit show in Riverdale.
It sounds like it, but in the best possible way.
It's good fun. We have a really good time going to work every day, and
Yeah.
that's all you can really hope for in this world.
So like going back to like the original days of Oilers Nation, did you ever expect like more than you and Jay to be running this thing?
Yeah, like we did intend to make a big business. Like our hope setting out was we want to create a network of websites of fans of different hockey teams and have them attack each other. Right?
Yeah.
That was our thought. And then as we got into it, we were like finding websites to purchase, like dailyfaceoff.com and hockeyfights.com. And we made those acquisitions, and it cost a lot of money. We had to go and raise money from investors and stuff like that. And we did those acquisitions, like Hockey Fights. We've owned, I think, since 2014 now, 10 years. Yeah, like we were hoping to grow our business exponentially. So we're not shocked, actually.
No.
We're very grateful. We're very happy, but we intended it to be a real business.
Yeah. Well, and it's obviously a very successful business. I mean, Hockey Fights, I don't know how many hours I've wasted on that website alone.
Oh, totally. I would go to Hockey Fights all the time. And then I was like, who the fuck owns this thing? And I went and clicked on about. And I was like, it's just some guy. And then I would always email him being like, sell me your website. Sell me your website. We're Oilers Nation. We're the most advanced fan group in the world. We're Oilers Nation. We'll manage Hockey Fights with the seriousness it demands. Like, we're Oilers Nation. We know online hockey garbage with a PhD. And then the dude phoned me during the Olympic semifinals.
2010 or 2014?
2014.
Ooh.
Canada's playing. This guy's never answered me ever. He phones me from New York State in Edmonton. I see his name come up on my phone. I'm like, oh my God, it's the guy from Hockey Fights. I'm so drunk. I like go running out of the sports bar we're in. I'm like, hello, hockeyfights.com. And he's like, I was phoning to see if you would even answer my call during the game. And I was like, nothing's more important than hockeyfights.com. And he ended up selling us his site.
Yeah. And now you guys got a podcast out of it with John Scott.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Like,
good God.
Are you guys ever going to get like an Oiler to like officially work for ON?
Maybe. I mean, the model, like what we do in 2023, I think we have 28 podcasts, and we love it, right? So like, would we love to get an Oiler on an Oilers podcast? No doubt. Would we love to get a Bruin on a Bruin podcast? No doubt. Would we love to get like any hockey content that we think makes sense that we can sell to listeners and sell to advertisers? We're in.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be all in. You got any conspiracies about the NHL? You do work closely.
When you sent me that list of questions, I was like, ooh, I do love a good conspiracy. I'll tell you a story that I heard that I believe to be true, that you and your listeners can take away and think whether that guy from Edmonton was lying or not. I believe this to be true. I had a guy come fix my furnace, and he was like in his mid-60s and jacked, right? Like the minute he was at the front door of my house, I looked at him, I was like, oh shit, this old man is jacked. That was my first thought. And my house is like filled with Oilers Nation merchandise of every sort. So you walk in and you're like, hey, this guy either has like a brain imbalance or he works at Oilers Nation. There's no other outcome. So he's like, what's up with all this hockey shit? And I was like, oh, I work for Oilers Nation. I'm really excited. He's like, I used to play in the NHL. And I can't remember his name, but it wasn't that he played for them for a long time, but he played for an original 16 back in the day. And I'm like, that's dope. And he's like, yep. It was like the best 6 weeks of my life. And so then he played minor hockey and he did a bunch of senior hockey and he did a bunch of other shit. So I'm like, did you ever see anything crazy happen in the NHL? And he's like, yep. And I said, well, what did you see? And he's like, when I was a rookie, a guy on the original 6 team I played we were like roommates and we would just talk the night away. We'd talk about stuff. And he's like, when his roommate was a rookie in the league, they had this guy on their team who was a notorious womanizer. And everywhere they played, he had like a girlfriend in every city. And this is when there was just 6 teams, right? And whenever they would go to Montreal, all the team would file off the team train because they didn't fly. They took the train in those days. And this one notorious playboy would go turn the other way and go to the end of the platform. And there would be like this beautiful lady waiting for him. And he would leave with this beautiful woman every time they went to this city. And they'd be like, who's your girlfriend? Blah, blah, blah. And he wouldn't say anything about it. He's a real dick. And he wouldn't tell guys on the team what he was up to. And then one day they got into town and they all filed off the train. And the guy turned to the right to go like he normally did to see his girl. But there was 2 guys waiting for him in like trench coats and fedoras. And they picked this guy up by his elbows and carried him off. And they never saw him again. What? This is an active player in the NHL in like the 40s. And what it was a mobster's wife.
No.
Yeah. He'd been sleeping with a mobster's wife whenever he went to Montreal. And then one day he got off and the mobsters were waiting for him. And so the team is like, where the fuck did this guy go? And the players were like, we don't know where he went. He just went off with these dudes, but he was always super secretive and shit, right? And it's in the 1940s. Like the war, I think, may have even been on, right? And he didn't have quite the like grip on where is everybody at all times with cell phones and shit in those days. People could just disappear. Yeah. And so this is where it gets crazy. The team, rather than open an investigation and get bad press and blah, 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 just said, oh, we released him from his contract. And that was the end of him.
What?
Yeah.
That's bananas.
That's a good conspiracy, hey?
That's a great conspiracy.
So the guy telling me that fixed my furnace, telling me the story, it took him a long time to tell me the story. And just looking at him, I was like, I believe this to be a true story. Yeah. I think that this is a story from the NHL in the 1940s of people who are all long since dead. And I think that rather than admitting this guy got murdered by a mobster, they just were like, oh, we cut him. Who knows?
Man, yeah. The world pre-internet, crazy you could just get away with a guy disappearing.
You could, as a seedy man, you could drive 6 miles up the road and start an entirely new family. And as long as the 2 towns never had like a softball match against each other, you could run 2 families concurrently in those days, and they would never run into each other.
Crazy, the economy used to be so good you could have a second family and no one was the wiser.
Those are the days. One guy could make enough money to have a secret family. That's the dream.
Yeah, and support them both well. That's the real dream.
Well enough. Not
well enough. No.
You know.
Yeah.
You have to have favorites.
Yeah, of course.
Right? You got to pick one set of illegitimate children to be your go-to kids, and then your other ones are your spares.
Yeah. Yeah, just in case something happens to the good ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my conspiracy.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that one. I thought you were going to have something on Gary Bettman. I was really excited for that.
I like Gary Bettman.
Do you?
Yep. And we've got time. We're having a hockey podcast.
Yeah.
Gary Bettman. So when Peter Pocklington, the Oilers' former owner, was going to move the team, he was making Edmonton his bitch. He was in the newspapers being like, Edmonton has no money, and then and there. And Oilers fans are chumps. And it was all extraordinarily traumatic. And then the NHL put young Gary Bettman in. And Gary Bettman, no one had ever fucking heard of him. I remember him coming to Edmonton as like one of the first things he did as commissioner. And I'm in elementary school, but I'm paying attention to everything that's happening. And he's like, the Oilers aren't going anywhere. And Peter Pocklington's like, yes, they are. And Gary Bettman goes, I'm the commissioner of the National Hockey League. And I'm telling you, this team is not moving. And I remember being like, oh, shit. There's somebody more powerful than Peter Pocklington. How fucking interesting. So then Gary Bettman did a deal with Superstore where Superstore bought, I can't remember how many thousands of season tickets and sold the season tickets at the cashiers at all the locations in Edmonton. And getting that single purchase of season tickets lifted the Oilers up to getting some special subsidy from the NHL for small market teams. And it added like millions of dollars to our revenue. Right?
Yeah.
And so the combination of being like, blowed out your ass, Pocklington, was mind blowing, because most commissioners, you would think, would take the money and be like, oh, we're going to move a team from Edmonton to Houston, right? There's going to be way bigger money from Winnipeg to Phoenix, right? But Bettman came in and stood up for the Oilers. I honestly don't think the Oilers would be in Edmonton if Gary Bettman wasn't commissioner.
Yeah, I can actually agree with that. Like I was like 3 or 4, so I didn't know what was really going on. But I remember like those are early memories of the Oilers are going to leave in 99 or it was early 2000s.
It was crazy. It was for a long time.
Yeah. I that's all I heard about as a little kid. Oilers are going to leave. And I mean, I have no recollection of the Jets leaving, but I'm sure Gary Bettman tried to have something go on here to make sure the team didn't leave. But
well, now that he's defending the Coyotes, and it's weird how the Coyotes, leave Winnipeg to go to a large American market. And, I remember like they had all the money in the world for Roenick and whatnot in those days. For them to have fallen on such hard times that they're now the bitch of the league is crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, they've had what, 1, 2, 3, maybe good years in the 27 years that they've been kicking around.
Well, they botched where the arena was, right? I mean, This is so key when you're planning a team. Obviously being in, where is it? Scottsdale?
Glendale? One of the
Glendale. They want to move it to Scottsdale. That's right. Yeah. But like, I don't know what the fuck that means as a non-Phoenix person. Edmonton's arena is smack in the heart, thank goodness. Winnipeg's is right on Main Street as well, right? Remember Ottawa moved their arena to Canada, right?
Yeah.
Which is like out of town. And that like tanked the franchise.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to make the trek out to Canada to watch the team. Like, that's
crazy.
Could you
imagine going to Leduc to go watch the Oilers?
I would go to Calgary to watch the Oilers. It's not the same. I would gladly go anywhere to watch the Edmonton Oilers play. Oh. But I think that if it's too hard for people to get interested in the team, you don't have the same hardcoreness of fans.
Well, no, I mean, like you think about the average guy, he gets off of work at 5:30. You gotta cruise home, get a quick shower, and you gotta cruise off to Canada, which is 20 minutes out of town. It's like,
yeah,
it's so hard for the average guy to truly care about his team.
I worry that it is beyond the means of normal people now to go to Oilers and other hockey games.
Absolutely, it is. The Jets had their lowest home opener attendance since they've been back, just because it's so damn expensive to just go to a game.
If I'm a family of 4, knowing it's going to be like likely $600 to $800 to go to the game and eat and do all that shit, it does not make sense to do that.
No, put your money aside and go to Mexico for the year with the family.
Well, Jesus, Murphy, you damn well can. Like, you can go to 4 Oilers games and watch them lose 4-3 and shoot muffins into the crests of opponent goalies, or you could go to Cabo.
Yeah. I'm going to Cabo every time. Sorry there, everyone that's watching the game.
But this is kind of what we try to do with Oilers Nation is like, we want to make it as fun as possible for people who, whether you go to games or not.
Yeah.
It's free to follow us on social media and say poo-poo jokes. It's funny. It's free to listen to our podcasts. None of this shit's behind a paywall. Nope. It's free to go to our website. It's all free.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And I genuinely think that like the Edmonton Oilers have succeeded so well in the last, especially through the decade of darkness, just because you guys were willing to be those goofy guys.
You think?
1000%. I believe that building would have been empty to about 10,000 people a night had Oilers Nation not been around.
No, you don't truly believe that.
I 1000% believe that. The hype, the absolute insanity of, oh yeah, the Oilers are going to win with, I can't even remember who replaced Sheldon Surrey, but like, I was like, yeah, the Oilers Nation believes, I believe. We're going to win with Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle as the guy.
Oh, man. I remember when I was like, Eric Cole is going to change the franchise. And then Eric Cole came from Carolina and he moved into a house next door to a dude I knew. And he goes, you'll never guess who moved in next door to me. And I'm like, who? He's like, Eric Cole. I'm like, Eric Cole is going to change the fortunes of this franchise. He goes, no, he won't. His wife told me they don't even want to be here. And I was like, I hate Eric Cole. And for the remainder of his time as an Oiler, it wasn't a long time. Turned out he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Those were the darkest years. Like when we had Taylor Hall and Jordan Everly, we could at least make mountains out of molehills and get excited about shit. But there was like Oilers Nation started in 07.
Yeah.
So there was the 07 to 10 where like we just lost the cup. Every single player had left, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have any first picks overall. We were still trying to cobble together like Robert Nielsen and Sam Gagner. Like Sam Gagner, God bless him, he did it. We needed him to play quick, and he did. Yeah. But those were even worse decade of darkness years in my mind.
Yeah, like that 2009, 2010 season. I think I was in grade 8, and I just like everyone's like mid-January, like the Oilers lose this game, they're in, out of the playoffs, or they're going to be dead last. It's just like, yeah, this sucks, but at least we can fall for Hall.
Oh my God. I remember one year, I can't remember which year it was, they blend together into a big blob of hilarity, but we were out by Halloween.
Yeah, I remember that year.
And I remember saying to Bag Milk, this has got to be some sort of record. Like, we're out and we know we're not back in the playoffs. It's like, oh no, we're not going back in the playoffs. And I was like, oh no. So you have to make your own fun, right? Because we're lucky enough to be able to speak on behalf of, like, we were making hockey content. So let's just talk about what there is to talk about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, it's all worked out for you guys in the end. So that's the big one. But yeah, I genuinely believe that you guys put a ton of bums in seats back in the day.
That's so funny. I never really think about that. I like to think that people just like the Oilers and we filled a need that would have been there otherwise. But who knows? Yeah.
But I mean, like if you're going to believe some nonsense that, Eric Belanger is going to be the guy, or Theo.
He will be the guy. He signed for a third year, Goose. He could have just signed for 2. He signed for a third year because he believes in what we're doing here in Edmonton.
Yeah. Went well for him.
Good God.
Good God.
Good God. You know who's a mysterious dude at this point in his career and life that you guys watched for a long time is Evander Kane.
Ooh, that guy. Yeah, I make any sort of comment about Evander Kane, and it's just as big as Dustin Byfuglien. It's like,
it's crazy, man.
It's money.
And it's crazy how he is on his best behavior.
Yes.
At this point in his career. And he's playing with Connor McDavid, and he's playing with Leon Draisaitl, and it is not his team. And there are people who have fully bought into what the Oilers are doing here in the dressing room. And if he were to fuck around and find out, he would, right? And I think that it's probably the best scenario he could be in at this point in his career, being here in Edmonton.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, I'm really rooting for the guy these days because it's like, and I feel so bad for him. He's like, he kind of has a Nail Yakupov track record. Obviously, there's differences. But like, you look at, could you imagine being 18 years old, being paid whatever he got paid, and being in Atlanta? How do you emotionally deal with that?
I don't know what Evander Kane is.
Yeah.
I don't know who or what we're dealing with. I don't know how much of his behavior is in the past and people change, even though that's very rare, right?
Yeah.
But there's something, I don't know.
Oh, are you calling like there's some shenanigans that Daryl Cates is making sure that are
no, not any shenanigans like that. Just I think Evander Kane is a complicated dude who's done some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
And like how much as a fan base you get like gaslit by 2023 Evander Kane, who's like, no, I'm the greatest guy in the world. Don't worry. Right. Versus like who he's been in the past. And then how much of in the past is a bad rap.
Yeah.
Right? He's just one of those polarizing dudes that like when you get your gear thrown in the shower and shit, Oilers fans are like, ha, right? But what he was actually up to, he's an odd story. I've never seen anything like Evander Kane, and I hope not to ever again. Every time he scores, I'm just like, ugh. I don't know what to make of him.
That's interesting. I thought everyone was just bought into new Evander Kane.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's
No.
he's done nothing but deliver since he got here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he hasn't had a squeak of scandal since he got here.
No. No. It's like,
But
but it can always come back.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
But like then you gotta think like if you're gonna be a truly championship team, you're gonna need to get some value contracts. You're gonna need to take some chances on players. You're going to need to get some rehab projects, not rehab of like drug and alcohol rehab, but like people looking to rehabilitate their career. And great teams find a way to get players producing at a level that they couldn't produce at elsewhere. And that's why they sign these value contracts, right? So Evander Kane legit did the Oil a service by signing the contract that he did.
Yeah.
But he's also getting to play with Connor and Leon.
Yeah. So what's his next contract going to look like?
I don't. How old is he? Got to be getting up there.
Yeah, I mean, he was with the Thrashers.
Fucking Thrashers, yeah. So, he just about cut his hand off last year, right? He's not a spring chicken.
No. But you got to think someone's got to be willing to chuck him at least another $1 million contract.
Well, he's doing, I mean, how many goals did he have last year? He had a great year.
He did, even missing all those games after that. Yeah, that wrist injury, the fact he is still rolling.
That's a hard injury to come back from.
Yeah.
Especially if you're him and you're a shooter.
I don't know how many people could have actually come back from that and continue to play.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wish you all the best, Evander Kane. I wish every Oiler the best. I wish every player in the NHL the best. Just, I don't know. There's something weird.
Yeah. So like we're talking about like Jets, like they've kind of left a bad taste in your mouth. Is there one that's currently on the team that you're just like, yeah, this guy can actually kick rocks?
No. I love the Jets. I really liked Andrew Ladd.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. When he signed the 5-year deal and became the captain and shit, I can't remember what was going on, but you guys were having some drama and he just like stepped up and was like, Winnipeg Jets for life, son. And I was like, that's what you need. You need leaders to stand up and be like, one thing that really pisses me off, and I think you guys get this a lot too. I remember can't remember what year it was, but there was a poll of NHL players that said Edmonton's the worst place to play in the league. And not a single Oiler came out the next day and said, no, it isn't. And it was before Connor McDavid, or it was his rookie year or something. Yeah. But the disservice that the athletes do to the city when they don't come out, just lie, you stupid idiots. Yeah. Just come out and be like, no, I love it here. And Winnipeg gets that too.
All the time.
And like, truthfully, if I was like an owner of an NHL team and I heard some prick didn't want to come play in Edmonton or in Winnipeg, I'd be like, we wouldn't want you here ever. Because if a minor inconvenience for your life for this short window where you're going to be a god is you don't want to spend 80 days at your home city while you play a sport that people would kill to play, if this is too much of a hurdle for you to climb over, we wouldn't want you here, you fuck boy.
I love that so much. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think guys like Andrew Ladd lay that down. They were like, I'm a good player. I want to play here. I just signed a 5-year deal. And that's the kind of leadership you need. And Connor and Leon bring that. That's one of the reasons I love them so much. Right. Yeah. Is it like Connor likes it here? Yes. And Leon does too. Right. And they like do the dumb shit in the community that you do when you actually care. Right. Yeah.
Well, you look at like the new Jets captain, Adam Lowry, who is a stud. I love him. Fourth line guy, loves the city. Mark Shankly, Connor Hellebuck, 7 more years in Winnipeg. And, you know, that's a thing I've heard since I moved here. No one wants to be in that fucking city. Blah, 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 blah. It sucks. It's cold. It's like, look, just look at the guys who just re-signed here. And you're going to tell me this place sucks? You can, get out of here.
Buy a house. You just made so much money over the 7-year contract. Buy a house in the south of France and go there for 4 months a year till you're dead and thank the good folks in Winnipeg for paying for your warm house. Yeah. Right? It's for everybody who's like, oh, people don't want to play in Winnipeg, blah, blah, blah. You can also remember most NHL players aren't capable of delivering shit in way of results.
Yeah.
So these little like wishy-washy players who don't want to go play in a market where it matters, they just want to go to a secondary market and be left alone and earn their money. And they're never going to win in a market like that. Like Johnny Gaudreau going to Columbus. Like, good job, you twit. You're never going to win shit there. There was one of the few places that could afford you. You just wanted to get away from a fishbowl. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Enjoy playing in Columbus.
Yeah, I really couldn't imagine going there. But again,
Columbus is actually a super sweet city.
Is it? Yeah, because it's got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, it's a college town, right? And like the Buckeyes play there. Like Columbus is actually an awesome, awesome, awesome place. I couldn't believe it when I went there. It's just the Columbus Blue Jackets aren't good, for lack of a better term, right? Like that's coming from an Oilers fan. It takes one to know one. But like if you're Johnny Gaudreau going to Columbus in what was it, 2021?
Yeah,
2022,
something like that.
You can't be going there with any expectation of winning anything. Give me a fucking break. Yeah. It's not that Columbus isn't a cool place. It's that the hockey team's in fucking disarray.
Yeah, much like the Oilers of old.
We did a spectacular job of coming in last and last again, until the gods of hockey just said, fuck, send the McDavid, send that down the pipe. That'll get everything sorted out.
Yeah, except for then, a team like Chicago doesn't have to suffer for like anyone else did. Like, oh yeah, you just finished up a dynasty, had a couple bad years, and new dynasty's on the way.
You know what though? If you're, how to put this? It is good for the game to have the Chicago Blackhawks be a cornerstone franchise.
You think even after they're like that black eye and even like the 20 years, or they were just awful? Getting them pumped up again.
I think the black eye of what's gone on of late, like
like that.
I'm happy for Blackhawks fans. I'm happy for the city of Chicago. I'm happy for people who've been cheering for the Blackhawks their whole life, who are like, "What did my team get involved in? What the fuck are we talking about?" And now they have Bedard. They have a new page in the book. Right. I just think it's good. Like, it's just time to close the chapter. And like, imagine being a fan of the Blackhawks. Like every time your team's in the news, you're just like, oh my fucking God. Like we found a whole new thing that's worse than being bad on the ice.
Yeah.
Right. So for them now to get Connor Bedard to come in, he's like, I don't know anything about anything. He shoots, he scores. Like, it's good to have that rebirth.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a good way to look at that. But do you think like the NHL struggles to market like just Canadian players? Like,
oh yeah,
we didn't hear nothing about Connor McDavid the same way we hear about Bedard.
No, I think that the NHL, it doesn't do itself any favors with how it markets the game. And I think that the NHL is getting caught up to and passed by sports like MLS. Yeah, because I think the MLS, because it's a new league and the markets are all new. Like I remember David Beckham went to play for the Galaxy and it was owned by like a shampoo Herbalife or some shit. You were like, what are you doing, David Beckham? Right. But he was truly laying the infrastructure for all these teams to be gigantic. Yeah. And when he brought over Messi to his team in MLS, and suddenly that team's probably worth more than most NHL franchises. And then the subscriptions to Apple Plus like move the needle noticeably because you have to have an Apple Plus subscription to see Messi. You just really have to kind of give them credit to the effort that they're putting in. I don't feel like the NHL is putting in a similar effort.
So do you think they would like benefit from like, because we got this guy by the name of Rutger McGroarty, who's going to be a stud in this league in the next couple of years.
Rutger McGroarty?
McGroarty.
What the fuck kind of name is that? How old is this person?
He's like 19. He's from Nebraska.
What? He's 19. Where is he playing right now?
Michigan. University of Michigan.
Okay. Is he property of the Jets? Why do you know this guy?
Yeah, property of the Jets, drafted in the first round last year. Good dude. Like all around great guy. But I'm just like, why is the NHL just marketing the hell out of Rutger McGroarty for the, 3 years when he's actually a part of the team? Get him hyped up.
But like, how do you market the NHL? I think is the real question that we need to ask. Right? How do you, in 2023, get through to all these young people and grow the game? When you say grow the game, you're basically saying get young people involved.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and I think that a thing like Oilers Nation, if that could go league wide, would straight up turn the league around.
We're trying.
I know you guys are doing fantastic work in Edmonton. I'm like, please someone come help us out here in with JN. Like, we have the potential.
Canucks Army's doing awesome. Leafs Nation's doing awesome. Daily Faceoff's doing awesome. The Frank Saravalli experience of Can we hire the top of the food chain to come and work for our hilarious little pirate ship of idiots in Edmonton? Worked out great. I think that for the NHL to grow, it would need to really embrace it being a worldwide sport. And I think that it's really hard for the casual fan in international markets to watch their favorite hockey team or player play. There's oftentimes regional deals in place. So they can only watch one game a week. Oftentimes it's like there's no like you have to watch bootleg games. I've been international and tried to watch Oilers games, and I have to like fry my laptop watching on like a Belarusian stream and shit like that. And I think for the NHL to get out of its own way and just beam content to every pair of eyeballs on earth that gives a shit about watching the NHL, I just don't know if they're willing to do that as an organization. Have you ever heard of One Championships, the MMA league?
No, I haven't.
So there's a $1 billion MMA league in Asia called One Championships. And it's like a competitor of the UFC. But their business model is all their content, whether it's interviews or fights or training sessions, it's all free and it's all on their app.
Yeah. Yeah. It should not be a fight to go watch what you want to watch. That's how you become successful.
And they just are like, if you give a shit about One Championships or any one of our fighters, we are going to like hit you with a fire hose of content, all free. And because it's in Asia and people watch it on their phones, because a lot of people don't have TVs, people who maybe don't get to watch a satellite game on soccer or something like that can watch it from the comfort of wherever they are with their phones. It's growing the sport. It's a $1 billion league that didn't used to exist. And I think that like that's the kind of attitude that we need to start thinking about if we want to grow the game. It has to be digital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a night where I was going to watch like a Jets preseason game at the office, and our VPN is in Calgary, so I couldn't watch the game even though I'm in Winnipeg. And I lost it. I was having a bad day, so I really lost it on the world for that. But I just like, man, where the hell is YouTube TV? Just like get those games on there, and it doesn't matter. Just open it up to everyone. I should be able to watch the Florida Panthers take on the Carolina Hurricanes without any hiccups.
I used to be, and this is back in the day, I don't do it anymore, but I used to be renowned on Oilers Nation on social media for handing out fake stream links to people, like real stream links, right? Yeah. But people would just be like, hey, Wanye, hit me with a stream for tonight's game. And like, I'm a computer guy, right? Like, I'll always know the streams. And I would link to it. And then the Oilers or whoever would get like so mad because they're like, why are you giving these streams out? And I'm like, because people want to watch your fucking game, you idiots.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fact that they're taking press conferences, which are very low value content. Let's be fucking real here.
Yeah.
And putting that behind a paywall on Oilers Plus, like that's so lazy.
Yeah. But I mean,
Oilers Plus.
I love what you guys do where you just like, you post those chunk of those interviews all the time. Like, good for you guys.
I want to see it. I don't want to pay to watch Jay Woodcroft talk. What the hell's the matter with everybody? But having said that, like Oilers Plus, you could have such amazing content if you wanted to. Like, have you seen what they do with Eli Manning for the Giants?
No, what do they do for him?
So he has a show and he's retired, and not everybody can be Eli Manning, and I understand that. But he has a show where he basically just talks to celebrities as Eli Manning. And like he goes to Pete Davidson's apartment, and Pete Davidson has Giant stuff everywhere because he loves the Giants, right? And then Pete Davidson and Eli go to practice and they say some funny shit, and a player comes over and Eli tells a joke and Pete Davidson laughs. And like, it's unbelievably good content. Right?
That's just because we have like every hockey player is a robot. Like we can't get anything more than, I got to take pucks deep and score more goals than the other team.
If I was the Oilers and I was serious about growing the game, I would hire Oscar Klefbom to come back. I would hire Nail Yakupov when he retires. I would go and get Jesse Puljujärvi when he retires. And I would make Russian, Swedish, and Finnish Oilers content where they're the anchormen. And if you beamed Finnish Oilers content out for 5 years with Jesse Puljujärvi and a Finnish journalist that you hired, and it was just Oilers content, just in Finnish, you would get Finnish hockey fans liking the Oilers because you put out all this Finnish content. And I'm not saying this as some lunatic. I'm saying that this is Oilers Nation, who has Oilers Nation Germany, who was started by German Oilers Nation fans. Like, can we start our own website? Or like, knock yourselves out, Playboy. Can we use the logo? We're like, do it up. And they make their own articles and do their own blogs. And that's us. We're not even a real team. Whoa. Right? If you want to embrace the game, go get regional successful ex-Oilers, a Russian, a Swede, a Finn, bring them home, and now you've got 5 Louis DeBrusques.
Yeah.
But they're making content in their mother language. And there will always be Swedish Oilers they can focus on, but they can just talk about the team in general.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyways, you asked me, Goose.
Oh.
I don't mean to rant like that, but they could be doing a lot of shit.
I live for the rant because I've been like, why hasn't, like, the NHL's getting overtaken? Like, we're no longer the 4th biggest league. And it's just like, this sucks because hockey is a fucking great game. And it just doesn't get the love that it deserves. And
this was the impetus for why we started the Nation Network.
Yeah.
Right? We're just like, we need to do something. Ryan Smith got traded. Fuck, let's start up a Ryan Smith protest site. Yeah. And then away we went, right? It's like, we really love hockey and don't think that it does a good job marketing itself. So we tried to do something about it. And now we have 110 people that work for the company. Yay.
Are we ever going to get like a reprint of the old Missing Ryan Smith shirts?
We did, actually. Somebody wore one to a party. It was funny because we made my sister design that for us. And she's like, I'm not even a graphic designer and I barely know how to operate Photoshop. And we're like, no one's ever going to see this. And then like 15 years later, somebody was wearing a reprint of it. It was pretty funny.
Ugh. So I'm just going to have to steal that and make my own Where is Ryan Smith shirt.
Well, you're a Jets Nation. You just send a letter or an email to somebody at head office and say, I insist you recreate one for me. And someone's job will be to help you out.
Dang. We can talk about this privately because I've had some issues with that, but that's
getting what, merch?
Yeah, man, I have wanted Jets Nation merch since the first day that I started. I have come up with like 6 t-shirts and then they're like, yeah, no one wants to buy this. I'm like,
it's true though. Like, it's true though, right? Don't get me wrong.
No,
we love merch.
I've got a garage. It's like I would put all that stuff in there just to make sure we could sell like 5 t-shirts. I don't even care.
I remember when tracksuits don't fly. Remember that, right? With Kane. I was like, oh my God, it is time to make the best-selling t-shirt in the history of time. Jets Nation, these tracksuits don't fly. And we ran to the printers to make these motherfuckers and nothing sold. And I was like, you know what? That's why everyone in Winnipeg is bare-chested. They hate t-shirts.
But did you guys ever have anyone like legitimately in Winnipeg writing full-time?
Full-time, no.
No. Or like, but you've had a handful of writers from Winnipeg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like the bulk of the sites until they get traction are having like people who work on contract to do other things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had, I can't remember, like, well, how long have the Jets been back? 14 years?
Give or take.
So we've had a site going since the minute it hit the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just one of those things I've never.
But you know what you do understood. If you can't get what you want? You fucking make your own Jets Nation t-shirts, sell them bootleg, and remit $80 to head office and say, told you.
Yeah, that's the goal. Maybe I'll.
No one's going to prevent you.
I guess so. I've just, I don't know. You get caught up with the corporate side of things. It's like, I know these guys wouldn't sue me, but I also don't want to have to like.
We would never sue you. We've never like, and I'm speaking for myself here, not the, like we are owned, but we were purchased, I might add.
Yeah.
But the people who bought us Playmaker are actually really good folks. We really like working with them. But there's a threshold of annoyingness that you put up with in business where you're like, fuck, I'll allow it. If you're like, I made my own Jets Nation shirts and sold 8 of them because I insist, no one's firing you for this. Give me a break.
That's fair. I mean, I'm at this point where it's just like, I don't know. Well, again, we could get into that another time.
No, let's talk about it on the air, man.
Well,
look, we had a party the other day. In Vancouver. And we have had parties in Vancouver for a decade, and they're never good. Now, that's compared to Oilers Nation parties, which have been raucous since the day the site started, and we've had more epic parties than probably wins. But Canucks Army just had a party on the weekend, and there was no tickets available and like a bunch of people waiting in line.
Whoa.
And the bar was completely full. And everybody at Canucks Army was like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? Like, we've been having these parties for years and no one ever came. Canucks Army is significantly bigger than it's ever been. And because they're fun, because they have beer now, because they're putting personality into it, a whole bunch of people showed up at their party.
Yeah. Yeah. I love listening to David out there. Like, he's so much fun. And like, I'm not shocked that.
But you can't tell me that you can't do that in Winnipeg.
I can. It's just, I'm a one-man army.
Well, but the followers, the fans, the Jets fans, they're your army.
I suppose. I mean, they definitely are. They're the army behind me. It's just like, there's a lot of times where it's like, I am the guy. I mean, God bless Ava, who does a lot of the social media, and she's
okay. Ava, what's her last name? Tarrant,
funniest woman out there. Like, hilarious.
Woman. I swear to God, she's the funniest fucking hockey fan of all time, man.
Yeah.
Oh, like absolutely. The amount of times her memes are like hand slappingly hilarious. She's doing like 3 a day, man.
Oh, I know. She's ridiculous. And like still working for another hockey company too, and still putting out just quality content.
The God two of you together have more. You should do a podcast with her.
I have tried for the last year and a half to get her on this stupid podcast. And she's like, yeah, we'll do it. And then just never does. I'm like,
she's shy? What's the problem?
I'm not even sure. And I hate being confrontational to be like, hey, what's up? Like, why haven't you hopped on my podcast? So we'll get it.
All right. Let me spit you some game here. Here's what I would do if I was you. I would go and find a sports bar in Winnipeg that you want to work with. Okay. So, like, we used to own the Pint Winnipeg. So I would have volunteered that, except they turned it into a Joey's.
Yeah, bastards.
Well, thank God they did. It's a hard grind.
Was that Pint not succeeding here?
It was succeeding, but like with what restaurants have gone through from 2020 to 2023, like we own a lot of restaurants and bars and the like, and Noodle and all sorts of things. And I can tell you that the hospitality industry on the whole took it in the nuts in an unprecedented way for like 3 years. Yeah. So the fact that we were able to sell, I think we sold that in 2016, if I'm wrong, 2017. But anyways,
somewhere in there.
You can't go to Pint Winnipeg because it doesn't exist. But I would find whatever the good sports bar is in town, and I would go up to the manager and be like, have you ever heard of Jets Nation? And he'll go, no. And you'll go, of course not. But do you want to work on having lots of Jets fans here in your bar? And he'll say, sure, because who doesn't want Jets fans in their bar? Leverage that bar being popular to host events there.
Ooh.
And just be like, I'll come here and host Jets games for you. You could probably charge them.
You think so?
For sure. Like here in Edmonton, we have a bar called First Round, and a guy who works for us. First Round has no spend with Oilers Nation whatsoever. He goes and hosts Monday Night Football there.
And he gets paid for it.
He gets paid for it. They give away prizes. He does trivia. It's like a fun hosted event. If you just go to a busy sports bar and declare it your Jets Nation party, people will come to the false conclusion that it's busy because of Jets Nation, when in reality, it's always been busy. Like the Pint in Edmonton. We're partners in the Pint, right? We've ran so many parties at the Pint over the years. And it got to the point where the Pint was so busy and our parties were so busy that you couldn't tell who the hell was at the party, whether it was Nation people showing up or the Pint just being busy. But all you knew is you were having an awesome time at all the Oilers Nation events there.
Yeah.
Right? You could do that in Winnipeg. Ooh. And if suddenly you're in the bar now, and suddenly you're hosting the events and you're giving away Jets Nation stickers and shit like that, and you have a pile of t-shirts for sale, you can grow an audience.
Yeah. I sure can.
Is it annoying to have to do that? This gets back to like doing what you love. Personally, I've been to a lot of parties in my life and I don't really want to do it anymore because like I'm the anonymous Oilers Nation guy.
Yeah.
But if I was you and I was trying to get Jets Nation to become more of like a thing, I would definitely start hosting parties in your market at the busiest sports bar you can.
All right. I think that's going to be the next ticket here.
You should.
Yeah. You know what? We're going to make it a goal. February.
Why not?
Try to have at least one party.
If you ask 5 sports bars, do you want to like throw a regular every weekend for the next 8 weeks and there's a Jets game, I'm going to come in here and do like intermission trivia for you? You said that to them? And just be like, I'm not going to charge you to start. I'm just going to see if this works.
Yeah.
And if they walked around the room and they're like, do you like that intermission trivia? And the people there are like, yes. You'll probably get a gig out of it.
Ooh.
And then you do it in the name of Jets Nation.
Yeah. And like honestly, the amount of times it's like, oh, you're the Jets Nation guy. It's so strange. But yeah, it's we're gonna get parties going.
Bars always want parties, and they
Yeah.
even if they don't know Jets Nation, they know the Jets. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to sell them on. Do you think we can get Jets fans in here? If you already have Jets fans in here, let's make it more fun for them. Let's do a night. Let's have a host. Let's give away prizes. They're always sitting on a ton of beer merch to give away as prizes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my advice.
No, I appreciate the advice because I've just been kind of staring into the void, like, how am I going to take this to the next level?
You got to get in front of Jets fans, and you got to be like the master of ceremonies of doing fun shit. Like, did you ever see when we went to the game as Turtles?
Yeah, I did. And that was awesome.
I'll tell the story because you don't have a lot of listeners, so no one's going to listen. It's all good. But I was meeting with the Oilers at the time. Oh. And I was like, we do what we want. And they're like, no, you don't. And I'm like, we do too. We do whatever the fuck we want. And they're like, well, stop doing whatever you want. We want you to do this and this. And I was like, I will never do this or that. And I can have a fucking event anytime I please. And they're like, what do you mean? And then that night we went to the game as Turtles at the Oilers Nation on the front. And we were in like, I'm not exaggerating. I tell you, we took hundreds of photos with people.
I'm not even shocked. I saw hundreds of photos on socials of you guys doing that. And I mean,
it was to prove a point.
Yeah. Matthew Tkachuk is a turtle.
The costumes cost $30. We printed off Oilers Nation logos and stitched them on ourselves and Matthew Tkachuk name bars.
Yeah.
And for less than $400, we threw our own massive Oilers themed stunt.
And it's
you could do something like that
a year
tomorrow
ago,
for the Jets.
It could. It really could. I mean, like a year ago today, it would not have happened. Like I was unemployed and broke and just like, I could have made my little hockey blog go. I swear to God.
Good on you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like if you said
shit for it.
If you said I'm going to get a Jets Nation costume of some sort and wear it to the game and do a stunt in the name of Jets Nation to get people interested in it with a big logo on the front.
Yeah.
It's no different than what we did. You're showing up where there's a ton of Jets fans and doing something like Matthew Tkachuk as a turtle. Like you need to find an inside joke like that you can pull off as a stunt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I was a little bit more prepared, we weren't doing this today. Pierre-Luc Dubois is coming to town and he is known for working at Home Depot. So missed my shot here.
That's funny.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
And it's all, again, we're going to throw it back to Ava. She was the one who caught on to that somehow. I'm not even sure what the original story is, but it's just like Pierre-Luc Dubois works for Home Depot now.
Honest to God, she is so funny. If she's shy, I get it. Because like not everybody wants to go and like do podcasts or parties or something like that. I totally understand.
Yeah.
But man, if you could convince her.
Yeah. I just need her once. That's all I do.
She's a meme lord. And that's
a
high designation to give to somebody.
It really is. Like if someone tried to call me a meme lord, like, no. I'm just a guy who makes memes. There's a very distinct difference. I'll get there one day, but if
she's top 5 NHL content creators online of all time for me.
I put her in like my number 1. There's no one better. Like you're right up there. Don't get me
wrong.
I fucking love your memes. They're so funny. Where I'm just like, oh yeah, that's a Wanye.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Comes from the heart.
It really does. Like I know every one of those is, just tailor crafted for Oilers Nation, and they're so.
I'm trying to do a meme a day as my challenge this year.
Ooh,
a meme a day, and it has to make me laugh. And a lot of times they don't. I gotta make it, and I'll come back to it 20 minutes later and be like, "No, it's stupid."
Yeah,
a meme a day. Can you do 365 funny Oilers memes in a year? By God, I'll try. I've been making Oilers or Oodle Noodle memes since 2017.
Have you seen that Indian restaurant down in, I want to say it's in the States, where they just make their own memes about their noodle shop? And I know it's not Oodle Noodle.
Somebody else is doing that? No,
yeah.
What
And I can't even remember right now off the top of my head, but they've
got find that. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. If I find one of their memes, I'm sending it off to you, but they've got like 500,000 followers just because of their memes. And they're ridiculous.
That's like us, but 10,000.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Oh, but the Oodle Noodle memes, those are spicy. Everyone's got to go check those out. They are.
Oodle Noodle is a restaurant chain here in Edmonton that we're partners in, and we run the social media content. And all the dishes at Oodle Noodle, while delicious, look identical.
Yeah,
So it's very hard to make content. And we make different box designs, like they're little cardboard boxes, like takeout boxes. And we always do different designs with local artists and shit. So that's kind of cool. Like it changes it up a little bit. But the only thing we've found that hits for social media content is noodle memes.
God bless the nudes.
So we make noodle memes. We make them, by thunderous Christ.
Now
we've got 18 locations.
I know you got 18 locations. I mean, if I could find an investor, I'd love to get one of those here in Winnipeg, mostly just for me, but you know.
It's probably cheaper to fly whenever you want to Edmonton or Calgary and eat oodle noodle and return to your lucrative job than to start a noodle noodle.
That's probably true, but I don't know. There's somebody that's like, I just want to own one successful bar and or restaurant and, do my Jets Nation stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
If that's the
I've got
game,
too many dreams on the go, or it's like, if I could, do like three of these, great. But
you can never have too many dreams on the go. The real risk you run is you have no dreams on the go and then you don't do anything. Yeah, that's a much greater risk than having too much for ideas.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. And I'm so much further past that point. I'm not even worried about losing out on my own dreams because it's like I've worked too hard.
Do you write down your plans?
Oh, there is 2 notebooks of just plans. And I actually just recently went through them just to see like, what did I plan in 2020 in March? It was like, oh yeah, big dreams there, kiddo.
Good man.
I've accomplished them. I wrote down, I'm going to Dauphin, Manitoba to go for my first radio gig. And I did it. And so I was like, I'm going to go work at the biggest radio station in Winnipeg. Done it.
Sick.
So I was like, I'm just, checking off the boxes here.
You can plan a fun course through life and you're already doing it, right?
Yeah.
And where you can run out of steam is when you run into a program director that's a dickhead.
Yeah.
Or you get a bad boyfriend, or your teacher tells you that you're stupid, or you have a boss that doesn't allow you to do side projects, or like what seems like relatively inconsequential things can actually knock you off your life plan.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Right? Like I bless my ex. She actually got me out of Dauphin because I probably would have been a lifer out there. It wasn't for her.
She got me out of Dauphin.
Yeah.
You sound like a coal miner in 1915. Like, I made my way to my claim in Dauphin and now I got out.
Yeah. So we got out, we broke free and now we're crushing it.
Like now, it got you had mentioned somebody saying this is just a hobby. Is that your current girlfriend or a former girlfriend?
Former. I still live with her, unfortunately, but
what ideal. Kind of kinky shit? How does that work?
It's called you're too broke and the economy sucks ass and you've got a cat, so you can't move anywhere unless your cat can move in with you.
You got to live with your ex-girlfriend? Not in the same bed.
No, God, no.
Do you have different rooms?
Different levels of the house. Yeah, we're good.
Wow, that's very mature.
Yeah. And listen, it was not an easy first 3 months. I've spent a lot of nights at the station, but that's okay.
And do you have, thank God you don't work at a jail.
Yeah, right.
And now you have a new girlfriend?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. I'm like, that's gotta be weird.
No. Yeah, I just hang out, do my thing. I really don't have time for a person in my life. I'm just like, I gotta focus on all of my shit before I can find someone.
I don't want to diss your ex. I'm sure she's a love.
She's a great person. There's very few negative things I can actually say, but she said this was a hobby. And I'm like,
do not let anyone diminish your fucking dreams.
Nope.
Boy, girl, parent, teacher, child, whatever the fucking relationship is. If anyone tells you that you're wasting your time doing something that you enjoy, get them the fuck out of the boat, man. Because that is the most worst influences you can have around you, or people second. If Michael Phelps came home every day to his family and they're sitting there in like their mansion all paid for by Michael Phelps, and they're like, swimming, Michael, still at your age, don't you think it's time to get a real job? Like, what the fuck are these people bringing to the table for Michael Phelps?
Yeah.
Don't let somebody tell you that something that you want to work on isn't worth your time. That's not fair.
No. And like, that was the nail in the coffin where like, okay, well, peace. But she had just bought a brand new house. And she's like, can you help me pay for it? I'm like,
no, I'm not a capitalist. I'm a superstar. That's what you
I
say.
am a superstar and I'll pay next to nothing in rent. And my
I'll pay you in
live here.
sex. That's what you say. You say you don't want money, you want thunderous D.
You can have all the thunderous D you want, but I'm not gonna love you.
Think about all the people that were in bands early on and left the band because reality called.
Yeah.
So like if you go back and look at virtually any band that formed, they'll have had earlier members, right? Yeah. And like, are their spouses wrong saying like, quit the Beatles love and come be a pipe fitter? Like, I guess like we need money, I suppose. But like even having the outside chance at like getting after your dream, in my mind, is worth so much more than canceling your dream because you're going to go and do the safe play.
Yeah, well, I look at like I don't like Conor McGregor, but I look at what his girl did for him and who believed in him. And
she's a ride or die man.
Yeah, she rode and up on the top of the pedestal.
And Conor McGregor rewards her by cheating on her liberally with various women.
Yeah.
However, she gets half.
Yeah. So she's doing all right for herself.
I think people are in like short supply of support, right?
Yeah.
And like Conor McGregor's wife, right? Or like, you know, one gal that we love obsessing over here in Edmonton, and by we, I mean I lead the charge, is Lauren Kyle, Conor's now fiance. If you think it's fun being engaged to Connor McDavid, you are an idiot.
Yeah.
It would suck being with Connor McDavid. I follow her Instagram, and like when she tags her friends, like I look at all their accounts and shit because I'm crazy, right?
Yeah.
And when she announced their engagement, she was regramming a bunch of her friends' reactions. And one of them was, I can't believe the Grinch stole my best friend's heart. And like Connor McDavid, God bless his heart, he's an epic dude, and he's one for the ages. He ain't long on social skills, and he ain't long on playing along. Right? Like he doesn't even play along in Scotiabank ads, and they're paying him $2 million to be there. You think he's a fun guy to hang out with socially? Lauren Kyle, God bless her heart, is constantly supporting him.
Yep.
And like her Instagram's like, I can't wait to go to the All-Star game and celebrate your accomplishments and blah, blah, blah. And like, I truly believe she means it. And you would think like, oh, wow, whoever Connor McDavid's with would be supportive of him. Nope.
No. I mean,
not like, at all, actually.
You got to think about all those girls in high school for him that were, you know, in love with him, and they didn't realize how much of an effort it was going to take to be with Connor McDavid.
And Connor McDavid is probably going to be miserable his entire life.
Yeah.
Because he's tortured by genius. And genius you can't turn off. So when everybody else is like, why don't we go to the south of France and enjoy our enormous fortunes? And he's like, I must rehab the ligaments in my ankle. And like he doesn't enjoy himself ever. That's what Lauren Kyle is signing on to for the remainder of her natural life. And like she's come to Edmonton. She's an interior designer, right? And she has really worked to establish herself here. She has a beautiful office for her firm. She employs probably 20 people.
Really?
And she's doing mansions all over the place. Kyle & Co. Design, it's called.
Huh.
And like it's on 124th Street in Edmonton is like one of our cool streets. She has a very visible sign on one of our cool streets, Kyle & Co. And I just think like it would be she doesn't need to do this. She could just sit around and be beautiful and be like, what's Connor doing? I need a Chanel bag. But instead she like puts herself out there and actually like tries. And I think she's great. That's the kind of people you need to be around if you want to be successful in life.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and whether you want to be Connor McDavid or an orthodontist or work at the radio station and crush it on your own stuff, that's the type of people to be around that are like encouraging you, right? It's easy to shit on people. It's hard to say you have a dream and you're going for it and I support you.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I've got a new kid writing for jetsnation.ca now, and bless his heart, he has put up with so much shit already.
He's doing God's work.
He really is. Oh, I'm not a writer by trade. The podcasting is my stream of consciousness, and we kind of talked about it at the beginning of this, where it's just like, just use AI, it'll help you.
Well, what we talked about earlier was like how it's hard to write, but it's hard to write because of grammar, and it's hard to write because of syntax, and it's hard to write knowing people are going to read it and you're like, I hope I don't fuck up. It's easier to talk.
Yeah.
So what we were talking about earlier is transcribing rants from your podcasts and turning those into the bones of articles for Jets Nation. right?
Yeah.
And I know this because I'm doing this now. I'm pulling out rants that I go on and turning them into articles too, right? It's easier to take a written rant or like a oral rant and turn it into a written rant than sit in front of a blinking computer screen and try to think of what to write about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I spent way too many hours just staring at a blank screen last year being like, what the hell do we talk about today?
It's hard.
Yeah.
But don't be worried about AI coming for your jobs. That's preposterous. You know that Drake AI song with The Weeknd?
Yes, I do know that one.
So when that first came out, I freaked out because I was like, oh my God, we don't even need Drake. All we need is AI Drake, and fuck real Drake. We don't need him. Because I thought that AI wrote the song, wrote the music, wrote the lyrics, recorded it. I thought that was everything. What the AI was a filter like auto tune that when you sing into it, you sound like Drake coming out the other end.
Oh, that was it?
That's it. So somebody wrote the song, a person. Someone wrote the melody, a person. Someone wrote the lyrics, a person. And then it sounded unbelievably like Drake.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, I thought you just like walked up to Chat GPT and you're like, give me a number one hit from Drake featuring The Weeknd. And it was like, barfed out this song. So we're a long ways away from AI replacing sports reporters.
Yo, I don't think that sports reporters will ever get replaced. Like, computers will never see what we see or feel what we feel.
That's the second one, I believe, right? They can't create a community.
No.
If you look at the good content creators now, whether it's like McAfee or whether it's the Barstool folks or whether it's whoever, it's not really about breaking news or hot trade analysis or any of that shit. It's just basically how big of a community of people can you entertain?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like I'm not a big Barstool guy, but Pat McAfee, I was like, oh, just another American sportscaster. It's like, I'll catch a show. I'm like, this is actually kind of fun.
See, I used to not like Barstool because I was a petty bitch. And I was like, stupid Portnoy, I don't need to know nothing. And like, I don't like football. I don't even really like anything other than the Oilers, right?
Yeah.
But I've recently started watching like content about Barstool on YouTube just to like see. And I was actually horrified at how much we have in common with them. Right? I was like, oh no, we're those guys. Oh God, we're just like them. But what you got to respect about Barstool is the number of different people that have blown up off of their name in every different direction.
Yeah. How many? You could probably name 25 if you like just sat down and thought about it.
Oh man, one of my favorite hip hop podcasts, $1 Million Worth of Game, is on Barstool. And even they're like, what are we doing on here? And Barstool just gets in their advertisers, lets them do their own thing, and leaves them alone, right? It's cool.
Yeah. It's the way to do it.
It's cool. It is the way to do it.
And like, wait, like, are you guys ever going to drop that science news website on us?
Space Biz News?
Yes.
Oh my God. How do you know that?
I think you guys briefly talked about it on one of your podcasts like 4 years ago.
Do you listen to that podcast?
Nowadays, not so much, but I still throw on Oilers Nation from time to time.
Then you did? That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
I got caught up with Jets Nation, and it was just, again, shitty PD who was telling me to listen to all this other stuff that, we don't need to talk about hockey on the radio. Whatever.
You know what? I have half a mind to go to Dauphin and put my fucking foot in that PD's ass and say, you know what you almost ruined, you prick?
You know what? The best amateur sportscaster out there is a guy by the name of Darnell Duff, who is in Dauphin, and he is in a state of paralysis because of that man. The bad PD, because he's just never given him that support. But that Darnell Duff has the greatest voice, and he should be calling WHL or AHL games at this point. In 10 years, he should be calling NHL games.
Interesting. Well, he'll get out of there eventually, won't he?
I don't know.
You should have him on your podcast all the time.
Actually, he was one of the OG members of this podcast.
What?
Yeah. He just got busy with his hockey season. So I was like, all right, Darnell, you go and be free. Do your thing. But yeah, that guy, what a stud.
That's interesting. So you also have an interesting window on like working with the sportscasters of tomorrow, if you're so inclined.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, keeping like the door open for people who want to come and help. and then seeing who they turn into 5 years later, right?
Yeah, like Evan, like the new guy that's writing for us. I'm so excited to see what he does because he's like, "Can I get in on Daily Face-Off?" I'm like, "You need a few years to cook first, but you'll get there."
Can I get it? Yes, you can be the lead correspondent.
Yeah, take over for Frank.
Well, so Tyler Yaremchuk, right? Yeah. Who's our boy? Who he and I are frenemies at the best of times, and actual mortal enemies at the worst of times. But he's on our podcast. We went to war when we hired Frank Saravalli to make his co-host Jason Greger. Right. Yeah. And Frank's like, no, I want an American co-host. And we're like, non-negotiable, Jason Greger or nothing. And he was like, no. I want like someone from New York or Boston to like grow the game. We're like, no, Edmonton. Right. And then finally we get our way, and Frank's like, all right, fine. And we're like, oh yeah, by the way, also Yaremchuk. And he like hit the roof. He's like, who the fuck is Yaremchuk? And we're like, our new guy. And at the time, I think he was 23. Right?
Yeah.
And me and Yaremchuk have been fighting tooth and nail as he's the producer of our real life podcast in Edmonton. And we can't stand each other. He doesn't like jokes, and I don't like assholes. Right? Yeah. And yet there we were. I'm like yelling at Frank Saravalli somehow that this is who needs to be on the show. And Yaremchuk is on the show with Frank Saravalli for 3 years.
Yeah. And right? I mean, like, I'm kind of in the same. I don't know what your beef with Tyler is, but I just.
Everything.
I just with real life, I struggle with Tyler Yaremchuk on there. Like,
oh, that's so funny. Why? Yeah. What's wrong with him?
There's a little bit of a classism thing where like I grew up relatively poor, and he's like, just go to the games, whatever. I was just like, fuck off, man.
Oh yeah.
So there's some of that, and it just, again, not wanting to get in on the jokes and only wanting to keeping it serious. Like, yeah, then you sound like every other podcast out there that's talking about hockey. Keep it fun, keep it light.
Well, part of the shtick, and I don't mean to draw back the curtain too far, Goose, is that Yaremchuk's playing a bit of a charade.
Oh yeah,
well, he's not actually the grumpy Gus that he appears to be.
No, and I understand that. I've been in the business long enough to know it's like, okay, he's putting on a little bit, but they're early on days where I just like, shut up, dude. I just want to hear the joke. I don't care about what Jesse Puljujärvi is doing in Finland right now.
I think that it is really hard to do what you and Tyler do for part of your living, which is go on the radio.
Yeah.
Right. You need to have a certain level of like self-assuredness that normal people don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? I respect what Yaremchuk does. There's a little bit of a jealousy there as well, where it's like, you just got right on into sports radio in Edmonton, and I had to grind through whatever bullshit I grinded through. And I know that he also had to put in a grind. So it's like, but I have a huge respect for what he's done and where he's at his career.
But that's why we've upgraded he and I from mortal enemy to frenemy.
Yeah.
And then one day we'll upgrade it again to showmance. And then one day we'll get married. Is because the level of effort this guy puts in. So he, by his own hand, rebuilt both our studios this summer. Whoa. Like painted the walls, went and got props, brought in a table, rewired everything, did it all himself.
Yeah, and though that studio looks sick nowadays.
Sick. If he was like a prima donna for real, he'd be like, I'm not rebuilding the studio. I'm the host with Frank Saravalli. Like, he wouldn't even, right? If he truly was a prick, the level of effort that guy goes to on a day-to-day basis, it's impressive, man. Like, I honestly, he's a good guy to model a blueprint after. I don't think that his success is anything other than something that you should try to copy to shorten the time it takes you to be equally successful.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at now. It's just like, you just got to grind, put in all the hours you can. And, eventually I'll stop recording in my own office here at work, and we'll have a real Jets Nation studio.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to see that we actually have studios now in Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, and Ottawa. Yeah. We have a show with, good God. What's the name of I don't know. How's that sound? I don't even know the name of the fucking podcast in Ottawa, Goose.
But someone in Ottawa is doing something.
Ian Mendez? No, that can't be right. I think it's called Coming In Hot. Anywho, it's a good show.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're able to have studios in all those places, it's not a real wild goose chase to think. Here's the way I would look at it if I were you. Who else is going to be the popular fan journalist in Winnipeg if not you?
Oh, it's going to be me. There's no one else. Everyone else
There
is
is
too
no one
serious.
else. So you just gotta like be like, okay, how can I get myself in front of as many Jets fans as possible and identify myself as being the Jets Nation guy? That's all you need to do.
Yep. I am Jets Nation. Like, I joke about it, but it's like I am Jets Nation at this point.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
I like being, oh, you're Jets Nation. I love that. That makes my day every time I go to Canada Life Center and someone points me out.
And there's just, because there's like an actual company now that you're working with, there's opportunities that no one else will, like what you're doing going on late at night. Nobody's stampeding to be involved in Winnipeg, right? So it remains something that you have a monopoly on if you choose to.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal here. Is like, keep this rolling. I would love to somehow get something where it's like, yeah, I've got the guaranteed paycheck from Rogers coming in weekly and then doing whatever I'm doing, or, taking
just make sure that you never turn your podcast off again.
Never. Oh, that's not happening. It's going to take a shitload of money for someone to be like, yeah, you can stop now.
But even like, I've had this conversation with Steve Dangle where I was like, do not let those motherfuckers stop you from doing your little show in your little blue room. Because you could be on the anchor desk of Hockey Night in Canada, and that little blue room still means there's a huge number of people emotionally invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he held on, and then he was able to quit and do his own thing, right?
Yeah. And like
turning off the pod is you even if you have 50 listeners, that's more than when you had 2.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I mean, like, I look back at that old podcast that I did, like a slice of beef, where it was like, we're just starting to hit it. And yeah, some jackass, don't worry about that. And I think that like actually hindered my career from whatever I was going to end up being, but it all happens for a reason.
No, I don't think so, because I think like, if you're going to truly do something that's hard to do, and let's be honest, sports media and podcasting and content creation, it's very hard to do, right? What is there, 100,000 songs published every single day now to streaming services? 100,000 a day.
Wow.
That's crazy, right? So if you're in the entertainment space where there's like such a high degree of washout, how many people start a podcast up and do 4 episodes and don't do it anymore?
Yeah.
How often are you looking under a hashtag and find somebody who started up an Instagram account for a particular team, put content on there 12 times, and then abandoned it 4 years later, right?
Yeah.
What you can control is how much content you put out.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do it for free, you're willing to sit in your room, no one can tell you not to. That's why Mr. Beast is so cool.
Yeah.
Right? Mr. Beast is so cool because he's just some goober. But he's like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out fucking YouTube, and I'm going to figure it out like nobody else has figured it out before. Is there anything in Mr. Beast's life that suggests he's going to be that successful? No.
No.
Does he think he's going to be that successful? Yes. And that's what that overall like belief in himself is what allowed him to make a million good little decisions over 10 years that added up to being Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
No one came and knighted him and made him Mr. Beast. He just got a little bit bigger every time. And the video of him, what did he count to, like 100,000 or something?
I think so.
That's just so impressive to me. Like, what have you got? Nothing. An old laptop and a microphone. What are you going to do to make people pay attention to you? Do you have any budget? No. Do you know anybody? No. Do you know how to talk very well? No. Are you good looking? No. Like, everything is going against this kid, but he has the fucking willpower to count to 100,000. It's just, I love it, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I love those success stories of just, he was some schmo. And he made it. And like I talked to John Scott a few weeks ago, and he's like, you're the Jets guy. I'm like, I'm just some kid with, that's got a half dream. And he's like, no.
But you can talk to John Scott. Like, it's already so much easier for you to become the guy you want to be than it would have been for somebody without what we have now. Like, it's already a much shorter road. Like, if you wanted to and you played your cards right, I don't know if you've already talked to John Scott on this show, but you could have an NHL MVP come on the show and joke around with you. You may have to book him 6 months in advance.
Oh, we've had John Scott on twice, and he is very comfortable coming on this.
He's such a good dude, man.
He is.
And like, if you said to him, John, for Christ's sakes, I'm just some guy trying to make it in this world. Can you put me onto some other guests I could have? He would deal you 2 or 3 big names, man.
That's good to know.
Right? Because you're young. I used to say I was a student until I was like 28. And my sister is like, you gotta fucking stop saying you're a student all the time. You haven't been a student for like several years. But I would just like go into the computer store to buy a computer and just walk up to the manager and be like, I'm a student and I need a computer for school. And then just prices would fall, right? Yeah. Or like we'd go skiing and I'd walk up to the counter and be like, I'm a student but forgot my student ID, and they would just give you a student rate, right?
Oh, it's crazy what you can just say to people and the prices just crumble.
You just need, and this isn't just for pricing or for negotiating, but it's also just in life, right? Yeah. Like, if you actually took the trouble to count to 100,000, you can get a lot of shit done. If you actually messaged 150 former Winnipeg Jets on social media, if you actually took the fucking trouble to figure out a list and contact these people that you could find, you would have more former Winnipeg Jets on your show than any other show.
That's very true. Can you get me Sam Gagne's information? I have DM'd him 16 times and he has not gotten back to me.
Oh no, Samwise. He's in the A right now.
He is. And I just like, he spent 42 games with the Jets and he replaced Ryan Smith for me. He was like the next guy. And I was just like, holy shit, he's
If I was you, I would contact the Condors.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Sam Gagne has a interest in a hockey school called Muskoka Hockey.
Yep.
Right? And they do a really good job. And he's very serious about it. Sam Gagne is a very smart man. The Condors have a PR office. They cannot be very busy. Let's get fucking real.
Yeah.
If you said, hi there, I would like to do a podcast out of Winnipeg with Sam to talk about how he's still giving her in the league, how Muskoka hockey is the tits, and whatever else you want to talk to him about, I am available 24 hours a day from now until the end of time. Can you line me up and interview Condor's PR person? They probably haven't been professionally approached by a podcast ever.
Yeah. Definitely not a Canadian one.
That would be my attempt if I were you. But again, like, there are things in this world you can control.
Yeah.
If you're like, I gave away 1,200 truck stickers over the last 10 years through Oodle Noodle that say OilersNation.com. There's 1,200 truck stickers driving around with the Oodle Noodle Connect because they picked them up at Oodle Noodle.
Yeah.
I see one once every 3 days now.
Is it really that often?
It's crazy how many fucking trucks have these stickers on there. But I know how many there are because I paid for them all because they're free.
Yeah. Well, I've had 2 vehicles that have had those stickers on the back of them. And it was like, it made me feel proud to be Oilers Nation guy driving around.
It's sick, right? And like when I was a kid, I used to have a golfing sticker on my truck. And I was the only one I knew that did it. And I was like, I am a street racing legend, right? And I remember being like, man, it would be so cool one day to have a company that people put your logo on their car like a NASCAR. Like, I can remember thinking this. And then when we were always brainstorming ideas of how can we make Oilers Nation more famous, like we always think about this. What can we do that's free or cheap, right? And I remember being like, why don't we just make giant domain name stickers? Like, you can clearly read on the Oilers Nation truck sticker, OilersNation.com. Like, it is clearly a website, right?
Yep.
And we gave them out.
Yeah.
Well, The Athletic, God bless it, and I read The Athletic, they're never going to be so pumped about themselves that they're going to give away free stickers, right?
Yeah.
But you can control that, and you could control, if you're really dead serious on making an unparalleled name for yourself with Jets fans, give them what they want, Jets hockey. And like, it's hard to get a current day player, sure, but former Jets, especially guys who are like 35 to 43 that are still young, they would love to relive the fucking glory
Oh, they sure would. I mean, yeah, like you guys have had Laddie Schmid. I remember that interview you guys did. It was like 2.5 hours, and I was just stoked about it because that guy was passionate and like shit talking Calgary, even though he was down there. It's like, what a good dude.
The real interesting guys to talk to aren't the stars.
No, because the stars are boring.
Well, they have to be.
Yeah.
Right? When you're Connor McDavid, when you're Scheifele, when you're Hallebuck, when you're like a real legit big ticket star, all you have is downside risk. All you have is, am I going to get hurt? All you have is, my season going to be as good as the good one that I had that got me this big contract? And the weight of the contract or the expectations over time for most players becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's where I see like old Milan Lucic making like $7 million being like, I'm happy to get this money, but I hate my life. Right.
Yeah.
If you talk to the guys who don't have all that pressure on them, or they're retired now, and all they're starting to remember is the good memes, they can be way more open.
Yeah. Oh yeah, going back to like my first conversation with John Scott, and I just asked him, like, what is the one thing you miss about the show? He's like, I miss the free sushi. Like, of course you do.
We had him on, and we're like so intimidated to talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah, that first time I talked to him, I was like, holy shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm talking to an actual NHL all-star.
And he's like, oh yeah, Oilers Nation. Da 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 da. You know what I don't like about Oilers Nation? I don't like how you guys decided Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is so cool. He's not so cool. And all three of us are like, what the fuck did you just say? And it was so funny because he was trolling us. We didn't realize it, right? And he'd done his homework, and we didn't realize he'd do his homework, right? Because we're like, you're John Scott. You're a legend. You're an all-star of the NHL MVP, right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that guy's just crazy smart to begin with, too.
Oh, then you realize his story, and you realize, yeah, like he's a very, very smart man. It's a interesting world that we get to legitimately say he's like our co-host.
Yeah. You know, it's so strange. It's like I someone asked us, like, what is it like to work with John Scott? I'm like, I guess
an honor.
It's crazy. I guess I kind of work with John Scott.
It's like Frank Saravalli. He comes out here and we're like, you have to play along with all our dumb shit. Right? And he just like, it's mind blowing because he's Frank Saravalli, right? And
yeah.
We said to him when we started working together, like, please don't rag on Edmonton. And he's like, what do you mean? And we're like, we have a self-image problem here in Edmonton that has been going on for a long time. And it's largely in the head of Oilers fans. But it's easy to make fun of Edmonton. We are who we are. And we would prefer that you don't. And he was like, I'll see. Like, he didn't say yes at all, right? But it's funny because when we make him come up here and hang out with us, we make a bunch of content with him. Slowly, he's becoming one of us.
Ooh. Yeah, true. I have noticed that transition where he was Mr. Serious, and now it's a little bit goofier.
Yeah, and we're like, you know what's great? The Edmonton Oilers and all things therein. He's like, I can kind of see where you guys are coming from. You don't have a lot going on up here. We're like, no, we don't.
No. But I mean, like, yeah. I like honestly with the Scheifele and Hellebuck re-signing in Winnipeg for these long terms, I know what concerts are coming to the city soon because I have that access now. And it's like, holy shit, we are a real city. People actually want to come to Winnipeg.
Winnipeg's awesome, man.
Oh,
and if you don't want to go to Winnipeg to play for the Jets, you're probably not going to be an NHL player of any fucking consequence.
No, not a chance.
Mark my thought as somebody who like witnessed the Oilers make a special DVD to try to convince Danny Heatley to come play for us. That's a true thing we did.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that DVD, or is that
nobody has? No, it's a real DVD, but no one's ever seen it. Like, it was literally one of one.
Did they destroy that or what?
I don't know, man. Danny Heatley, I think, has the only fucking copy of it. I think they like edited it together with like somebody who works for the Oilers making clips, which now is a thing a lot of people know how to do, but in 2007 it wasn't.
No.
Right? And I think they burned one and sent it to him.
Damn.
But like, we were always up to cockamamie schemes like that, trying to like be somebody that we're not, right? And it wasn't until Connor showed up and Leon showed up that we actually like had some pride put back into what we were doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you see the pride in Edmonton now because of a guy like Connor McDavid. It's not just a bunch of
100%.
blue collar workers who are just doing the best they can to squeak into the playoffs. It's like, this is legit.
It's one of the great life lessons that sports has taught me. Like, I remember, who was the fucking player they tried to sign? He was a Euro. We tried to sign him to like a 5-year deal in like 2008.
Was it?
It was right around the time. No, like we tried to offer Thomas Vanek a lot of money, and he turned us down. And then there was somebody else, and his wife turned us down. Like, word got out that it wasn't even the player that said no, but the wife said no. Right?
Awful. But it led to
I can't
Connor.
remember who it was. But all the time that these two-bit pricks were like besmirching our city, Connor McDavid was doing sit-ups, getting ready. And when we weren't able to sign Danny Heatley, it was actually saving it from ourselves, because Connor McDavid, when we tried to sign Danny Heatley, 2007, what would he have been? How old was Connor in 2007? 10?
Give or take.
The guy we need to save us is only 10. No, we need help right now. No, you don't. Trust me. The guy that's going to change everything is only 10. Give it 8 more years. People don't want to think like that, right? They don't want to think long term. And one of the cool things that sports ultimately taught me was like, the thing you could want the most, the Oilers to win, go to the playoffs, get drunk, win the Stanley Cup. That's all I want in this life, right? It can be just out of your reach for like 10 years, to the point you have to coin the term decade of darkness. But it was all leading up to exactly what you want. You just couldn't see it yet.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what would be more heartbreaking? The Oilers never winning it, or your Wanye Jr. becoming a Flames fan?
Oh, bless his little heart if he wants to be a Flames fan. There's worse things that could happen. The worst thing, people sometimes, you'll be talking to them, and they'll be like, oh, you're Oilers Nation guy. You probably wouldn't like me. I'm a fan of the Detroit Red Wings. I would sooner a real fan of any team of any sport than a fake Oilers fan.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Right? If Wanye Jr. walked out and he was like, you know what? Rhett Warner was a value contract once upon a time in Calgary. They're my favorite team. I'd be like, well, that's unfortunate.
Away she goes.
But I wouldn't be like, don't be a Flames fan. We were talking about, what would be worse? No Connor or losing in 06? Like, so you could win in 06, but you don't get Connor. We're debating what would be better. I would prefer Connor to that cup.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I think it was Rick who was saying it on Wanye's World there. He was just like, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But
it'd be worse. No, it'd be worse to lose Connor than to not have a cup.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
That Oilers
and the same
team
going
of 06
forward
was the Florida Panthers of that year, where just like, you just showed up. You didn't.
What if the Oilers never win a cup, but Connor plays here his entire career? That was the other half of that conundrum. I would sooner have Connor. The guy does one thing a night I've never seen anyone else do.
Yeah. He is unbelievable.
It's better. Yeah, I swear it's better than a cup. And it kills me to say it, but like night in, night out entertainment value. Think about all the teams like Tampa Bay that won a cup and they weren't even that fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, but you get to watch Connor McDavid
night in, night out. It's bananas what this motherfucker does. I remember when he smashed his knee on the net and no one knew how bad it was, and like he almost had his career end. Then he shows up the next year and he's like willed his knee back together and he gets 10 trillion points. Like, the fact that your earlier point about, does the NHL market itself? This guy, despite having the personality of an enema, is one of the most compelling stories in sports in the last 25 years. And the fact that we're not out there able to make him seem more interesting than he is. They made Lance Bass interesting, for God's sakes, Goose. So we can make Connor McDavid interesting. We just got to have the right marketing people triggering him so that he says semi-interesting things from time to time.
Yeah. Well, like, if you go, like, what was that? He had that fun suit in his rookie year. Like, where did that go? Why don't we have fun suit Connor?
Expectations, man. Right? Like, there's nobody in this world who is harder on themselves than Connor McDavid. right?
Yeah.
When you watch him age, like every Connor year is like 5 years on his face.
Yeah.
Right. And like you see him, like I think Ovi has like 48 career empty net goals, and Connor has, I don't even know how many, but he purposefully doesn't want them.
Yeah.
Because he knows at the end of his career, he has all the records, and he's already mentally thought that far ahead of, I don't want empty net goals clouding my stats, right? Like, you're a different type if you think like this.
Yeah.
Right. But for us also to be like, yeah, but can you smile more so we can market you better? Like, it's kind of rude to be like, you're one of the best modern stories of the hockey era, but can you make yourself funnier for your AT&T ad? Like, he's so focused on what he's doing. He's not like Gretzky. He doesn't want to be a personality. He doesn't want to be a celebrity. As much as I wish, he'll never drop an album.
No.
Imagine he did.
That'd be sick.
You know what's interesting is Cam McDavid. We found this interview with him, and he was talking with Connor, and I don't remember who the interview was, but it wasn't well distributed. And he goes, I remember the time I came home and Connor had taken my laptop and recorded a techno song. And Connor immediately got embarrassed. And Cam's like, it was really good. I had it on my phone for like 4 or 5 years until I lost the phone. And Connor's like, never talk about that again. I would give anything to hear that. And I tweeted at Cam McDavid, we need to hear this. We have the numbers to make it #1 in parts of Canada.
Oh, it would be a monster hit. Like, could you imagine that playing at every single Oilers Nation event at the Pint? People would love it.
11-year-old Connor's one techno song. Has there been any Jets that have, like, Cooper Marody is an Oilers prospect, good player. He put out an album.
Yeah.
Have there been any Jets, to your knowledge, that have done anything like that?
No, the only one that I can think of, like, not musically, but Nate Schmidt has a hockey tape company. And like, that's the only one I can think of right now. Dustin Byfuglien has got a fishing.
Like stick tape?
Stick tape, yeah. So, I mean, staying within that realm, but like Dustin Byfuglien, former Jet, has his fishing stuff going on right now. And
what's that? Like, what's he got? Like fishing gear?
I think it's fishing gear. I'd have to go double check, but he's like a professional fisherman on the side now.
It's pretty crazy how Zach Hyman's got all this shit on the go.
Right? Yeah, I like you were talking about it on Wanye's World, what you want that podcast to be, where we just talk to Oilers about their side projects. I'm like,
for real.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear those podcasts, especially Zach Hyman. Like, that guy's actually
get these guests.
Listening.
It's hard, right? I'm playing the same game you're trying to play, right? Of like, how do I get interesting people to come on my show and say interesting shit?
Yeah.
And to have, you know, the Nuge come on and not even mention the Oilers
would be great.
Would be such an interesting show, because all I literally know about this motherfucker, and I love Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I love Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I know he owns a racehorse named Infinite Patience. That is it. I don't know anything else about him. And that is a tragedy. We get back to talking about the NHL marketing itself. How do I not know more about my favorite local heroes who've been with the team their entire career? What the fuck?
Why isn't the NHL promoting that horse more? Like, everyone should know Infinite Patience and just be in love with that stupid horse.
One time a guy DM'd me and he's like, Wanye, I found a way to bet on Infinite Patience. And he sent me this link to this betting website. And like, I'm like, you are a real Oilers fan. Like, if you are looking for BC betting simulcast shady websites so you can bet on Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' racehorse, you're my kind of Oilers fan.
Oh, man. Yeah. You got to send me that link for next summer, because I want to bet on Infinite Patience.
What, there's got to be other Jets doing wacko shit out there, like interesting stuff. What else? What's going on? There's nothing?
Nothing with the current Jets that I know of. I could be wrong on that, and I've somehow missed something big, but even the
what are the storylines? What are the fun storylines about the Jets this year?
No one knows what they're going to do. Old man Rick Bowness is on the last year of his contract, and it could be extended by the team if they so choose. So we're waiting on that. I like that head coach a lot. So
you're solid in that.
Solid in net. I mean, assuming Connor Hellebuyck can get it together, it's a benefit.
What we wouldn't give to be solid in net.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's honestly why I struggle to watch Oilers. Like, Darnell Nurse, I'm one of those guys who hates on him. It's not even the contract. I don't know if he's the right fit.
Why?
I just, his defensive game, we're just like, he does so many things right, but the things that he does wrong, just it feels like it cost the Oilers so much.
Fun team to watch though with Connor and Leon.
So much fun. Like don't even get me wrong. Like Connor Brown, I've enjoyed what I've seen out of him so far. The Nuge has been an OG legend.
Wow, this year has been flattered and piss on a plate. Let's get real. But what are you going to do? I mean, 0-2 to the Canucks to start. It's a good laugh en route to a Stanley Cup.
Oh, hell yeah. You guys better be the first team to bring the cup north of the border in 31 years.
I can't even allow myself to think about winning the Stanley Cup as a legitimate expectation. I don't think you can expect to win the Stanley Cup and be anything but disappointed in life.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. But like the moment that cup is won in Edmonton, I'm hopping in my car and I'm making that 13-hour drive to just party for a week.
We will have 8 crazy nights like Hanukkah when the Oilers win the cup. I will be violently intoxicated for an extended period of time. Remember Ovi and the Bellagio?
Oh, it's
going to remove all the opulence in class. Wanye in the North Saskatchewan just thrashing around in an adult diaper, crying. When the Oilers lost the Stanley Cup in 2006, I cried for the first time since I was in grade 6. So I think I was like 25 when the Oilers lost the cup, right? So I cried for the first time in over a decade. When the Oilers win the cup next, I will cry for the first time since the Oilers lost the cup in 2006.
Are you going to replace that toilet that you broke in that one bar?
Excellent question. You've heard the story already.
I have.
Your dear listeners have not, hopefully, the 50 of them that are here. Yeah, that bar has since changed like hands like 10 times. It's still a bar, but the toilet that I broke in murderous rage after the Oilers lost the cup, it has since moved on, thankfully. But it's good to care about something that much.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And it's cathartic when I can only assume it's cathartic the day that you actually get that win.
I will have to experience it. I mean, I had a girlfriend at the time who broke up with me that night because she's like, why would you care this much about a hockey team? And I'm like, you're doing this now? Like, we just lost the Stanley Cup. You're going to do this now. And she's like, you're a weirdo. And I was like, I am a weirdo. I'm going to start my own website to find more weirdos like me. You'll see. I'll still be doing this when I'm 42 years old. She wouldn't have believed me.
Well, her loss.
Her loss indeed. Yeah. You know what? She's dead now. No, she's not. I'm just kidding. She's not dead. Dead to me.
Yeah. Well.
No. One time I saw her actually on the scoreboard at an Oilers game. And I was like, well, this is ironic. Of all places to see you, you witch. But you don't talk like that in polite company. You say it in your head.
Yeah, yeah. No, of course.
Was there anything on your list that you wanted to get to? I know we're meandering all over the road here. I just want to make sure you hit all your key talking points. You took the trouble of doing prep. I was impressed. It's a sign of a winner.
Oh, I so much prep on all of these podcasts.
That's crazy. You got really good habits, man. Like, don't let anyone tell you not to do a podcast ever again.
Oh, no. I am not listening to any of those people. I will walk away from them. You're like, you do not have my best interests in mind. So kick rocks. I have one last question. I think we've gotten through everything. What is the best Oilers goalie setup?
What do you mean?
Like, like Dwayne Rollison had like that sick mask back in the day.
Oh,
yeah. Cujo.
I was a huge Bill Ranford fan back in the day. And Bill Ranford had the sickest mask. But the Cujo mask, that was pretty fucking cool too. You know what? It's Cujo.
It's Cujo. I respect that.
Can you imagine that? That is a crazy mask. And it was the same at every team he went to, but the color changed. And I remember it was mind-blowing to see them roll it out in Oilers colors. Like, mind-blowing.
And that guy played like 80 games a season, or like in his 2 seasons, like played 80 games. Unreal what he did.
When he was leaving, we didn't know he was leaving yet. He spurned the oil and fucked off into the sun, which was quite painful. But I saw him at Outback Steakhouse in Edmonton at the end of the season, eating with his family, laughing. Ha, 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 ha. We're rich. That was the impression I was given. And I remember stopping and squinting at him and reading his face. And I was like, this guy's not going to stay at Edmonton. I'm like, he's too You know, some people you see them and they've got like the bright light of show business that shine upon them, and they're like real stars.
Yeah.
You know those type of people?
Yeah.
Cujo had that.
Ooh.
Cujo had, you knew a bigger market was going to snatch him away for us and spend extra money. Where do you end up going after? The Leafs, wasn't it?
The Leafs or San Jose? One of those teams.
He came here from St. Louis and he went to Toronto after for big money. Big money,
probably,
too.
Because they got all the big money in Toronto.
Speaking of Toronto, do you find it odd how much Max Domi hangs out with Ty Domi socially?
Oh, it's crazy. I don't know if I could hang out with my dad that much.
He's either going to be the coolest guy in the world, and maybe he is. He's Ty Domi.
Yeah.
Like Drake, you see how he brought Ty Domi out?
I did see that, yes.
So they're in the box, and like all the Leafs are at the Drake concert, and I'm like, is that Ty Domi? What the fuck is he doing there? I'm thinking to myself. But then the next thing I see is Drake bringing him out. So maybe Ty Domi is like some super cool Jedi Master guy. I don't know. Like Drake's not going to bring a nerd out with him.
No, he's going to bring out someone legit. So bringing out Ty Domi, that's an
and everybody cheered so loud. I don't know if it was for Drake and Ty Domi or they were just cheering for Drake, but like the impression I got watching the video was like they loved Ty Domi.
Can you blame him though? That dude was.
But then so like. Imagine Drake came to Edmonton and brought out like Ryan Smith. I'd be like, oh my God in heaven, right? Maybe that's what it's like for Leafs fans.
You got to think it's got to be something close to that.
Otherwise, it's just weird to be like, Dad, I'm in the NHL, man. Like, you got to leave me alone. I got to live my own life. I'm trying to hang out with the weekend.
Well, too bad I'm hanging out with the weekend with you guys.
It's too bad Taylor Swift didn't fall in love with an NHL player.
Oh my goodness. I am so in favor for it, and I'm so against it at the same time. Like, I know you're doing great numbers for the NFL, and you're getting
that's growing
ladies.
The game.
Yeah,
that's the smartest marketing.
So, do we get Connor Bedard with Olivia Rodrigo?
Ooh, remember when Mike Comrie was with Hillary Duff?
I do, and that she lived in Edmonton briefly.
Sometimes we would see her at the grocery store. She liked it here.
Why you can't blame her? Edmonton's a great
city.
Know
why? It's an interesting thing. Well, there's that. But if you're Hillary Duff, I would think you would hate it here.
Yeah.
But she liked it here because there's no paparazzi.
Her sister actually would come to the market all the time and buy cookies from us.
Is that so?
Yes. And the only
Haley Duff?
Haley Duff. And the only reason we knew it was Haley Duff because we loved Napoleon Dynamite. And we're like, that's the cheerleader from that movie.
Is Haley Duff in Napoleon Dynamite?
She's the head cheerleader in that movie. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Crazy.
Hillary Duff was a nice lady. Mike Comrie was a good player. That's a guy I'd love to talk to.
Gotta figure out a way to get Mike Comrie on.
Well,
or he had is that because he had that bad way of leaving?
Well, but he came back, right?
I guess
that's what's crazy. Like Mike Comrie, I knew him when we were little. We went to kindergarten together.
Oh,
yeah. And so he was my friend when we were little kids. And as we got older, I mean, obviously life takes you on different paths, but like,
yeah,
I've chatted with him numerous times about life and like consider him to be like a friend of mine when I was little. And that guy had such a crazy life, man. Like it's crazy enough if you make the NHL. Mm-hmm. It's crazy that this happens to 18-year-old kids making the NHL and millions of dollars and all this physical pressure to perform, all when you're like your craziest age, right?
Yeah.
But Mike Comrie was even more. He was local boy, but like he didn't get drafted. He was playing the AJHL and had like 14 trillion points and then like signed as a free agent. Like he did just his own weird lane into the show and then signed a free agent contract for millions, picking his hometown, the hardest road, and then like scored a bunch of goals, including a massive playoff goal. And like he was Bieber hot in Edmonton, like white hot. He was we like to make mountains out of molehills in Edmonton, and we like to make stars into superstars. Mike Comrie in his rookie season in the playoffs, he was Ocho Cinco. He was that popular. It was unbelievable. And then to go through leaving Edmonton, right? And like under a cloud of bad PR of like Kevin Lowe asked for him to give his signing bonus back. Remember that?
Yeah. Wasn't it like $30 million too?
No, it wasn't that much.
Like, okay.
I mean, the salaries weren't insane then. I think he was making, if I recall correctly, something like $11 million over like 4 years or something like that. But 3 million of it was a signing bonus, and like no one had ever asked for anyone to give a signing bonus back. Then you have to remember Mike Comrie's dad is like one of the richest men in Canada because he invented the brick.
Oh yeah.
Right. So what makes it even more mind blowing about Mike Comrie is he doesn't need the money at all. Right. And yet, despite like his dad being a bajillionaire, his dad can't buy him his way into the NHL. But there's a lot of rich kids of people out there. It actually makes you less likely to be successful if you're the kid of a rich person than more. But Mike Comrie was able, and like his older brother played for the team too, Paul, right? And he only played 5 games. Like, I don't know. It's a really interesting story. Huh. Who would your dream guest be?
Oh, you know what? And this is going to be the simple Winnipeg answer, but I would love to have Dustin Byfuglien on here. And I don't want to talk an iota of Jets hockey. I just want to talk to him about fishing.
You could make that happen.
I probably could. I think I got to get into it a little bit more, find out where he's at. I know his wife is very active on social media. It's just, you put that Jets name out there and, the way that he left the team, it's so heartbreaking that I don't know if he would even consider it because we have that, Jets name.
What's the story? How did he leave the team?
So long and short, he needed a surgery done on his ankle, and the team was like, no, you don't need that to happen. And he was like, well, I'm going to go get this surgery because I would like to feel like a normal human being. And so he skipped out on training camp 1 year, and then he was like, well, get fucked. So, they mutually killed the contract, but, it was the team being pretty awful.
So he's now retired?
Retired in the same way that Jumbo Joe's retired, where it's like he's still not technically retired, but is retired.
Does he have a charity?
Not that I know of. I'm sure if I got looking into it. But no, that dude's a pretty quiet guy. I don't think he wants that fame and any kind of anything. He just wants to go fishing.
If you could find a way to make a donation to charity because he came on your podcast, that might be a way to get him.
Well,
so if it's like, I went back and looked, and Dustin Byfuglien supports the Boys and Girls Club of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? If you found a way to get in touch with him through his agent even, and who his agent is a matter of public record.
Yeah.
Right? Never underestimate jumping through hoops to try to do something with somebody, right? Like if you went to the agent and you're like, hey, I'm this guy in Winnipeg. I love Dustin Byfuglien. I raised $500 for Ducks Unlimited, his favorite charity. He loved the Ducks. If he came on my show, I would give $500 to Ducks Unlimited. At the very least, nobody has ever said that to his agent.
That's a good way to.
And I say this, that's how we got Evander Kane on our podcast.
Really?
Yeah, he had a clothing line.
Right.
And I was like, this guy probably wants to promote his clothing line. But Wanye, he can't just call up Evander Kane and have him come on your podcast. No, he has people for that. So I found out who those people were.
Matt Hendricks is the guy that I actually want on this podcast more than anyone else.
We had him on our show.
Oh, I know. And then
he's a beauty.
I tried to message him, and it's like all his social media is gone because it got deleted early in the pandemic. Like, oh, cool. Goodbye. But he seems like a real genuine dude. And like he drove from Minnesota.
Hendricks deleted all his social media?
No, he didn't delete it. It got deleted on him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His Twitter and something else got deleted. And he had like made like a quick like whatever post, and it was like, it's gone. I'm like, oh, okay. Goodbye, Matt Hendricks.
You could probably get in touch with him through like the Alumni Association.
Ooh. That's a thing.
Yeah. They'll have an email for him.
Okay. That's good to know.
There's all these tricks, Goose.
Yeah. Tricks that you don't realize you don't know until somebody tells you about them.
You got to say, what is my problem and whose job is it? Somewhere, someone must have the job of solving my problem. This is how I think. So like, I want to talk to Evander Kane. Why? Because he has a clothing line out and he'll be looking to do press. Okay. Well, whose job is it to make sure that Evander Kane would hear about this? Not the Oilers, because they will never, ever help.
No.
But these people have their own representation. And if they don't have an agent, they're available through the alumni. If they're not available through the alumni, they're available on social media. If they're somebody you want to talk to, there are things you can do to make yourself appealing to them, like raise money for a charity they care about.
Yeah.
And know that if it's hard to track down Matt Hendricks, everybody else isn't going to be willing to do it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
But it's like working from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. on Saturdays. It's like, if someone's willing to do it, that person now has their foot in the door. If you go to the trouble of tracking down Matt Hendricks on the side of a mountain because he's abandoned modern technology. Remember when, you probably don't remember this, but Ricky Williams retired from the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't see him for years. Like, no one knew where the fuck he was. And then someone found him living in Australia in a tent in like a hippie commune. And so I think it was Sports Illustrated did a story, and it was like, we found Ricky Williams. He's in Australia. He's living in a tent. And I remember just thinking, like, man, the writer that found Ricky Williams on the side of that mountain really deserves a trophy. Like, that was not an easy thing to figure out.
No.
We can all learn from that Sports Illustrated writer.
There we go.
There we go.
Well, this has been 2.5 hours of fantastic conversation.
Good, buddy. I hope so. Yeah. We only talk every 6 years. Next time I talk to you, you'll be a lead correspondent on ESPN.
Oh. All right, if you say so.
The Oilers game begins in 5 minutes. So you've timed it perfectly.
Yes, I've got the Jets game ready to go on the old radio broadcast, and then we're watching this thing on TSN tonight. So
let's give her, baby.
Well. Yeah,
good on you, man. Well, if there's anything we can do to be helpful, please let us know.
Yes, I will be annoyingly emailing Bag Milk in the coming weeks. So, yeah.
Don't let no broads tell you what you can or can't be. That's my closing words.
Those broads can't tell me nothing because I got my mind on riches and not vagina.
We're sports reporters. We don't know what vagina is.
No. Yeah, we got the wrong business for talking to women.
We'll close it on a high note.
All right. Well, you have a great night.
Take care.
And may the Oilers and Jets win tonight.
Go Jets, go.
Go Jets, go. Peace.
Peace.